GAD. 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 Woo!
All right, welcome to GADcast. Sorry about that last house band. One before them forgot to take their Hypnosil and died horribly in their sleep. The whole GADcast crew is here tonight. We have Andy. Andy, say hello.
Hello.
Adam, say Adam.
Fuck no.
And we have a guest tonight. His name is Rapid Randy. Randy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, Rapid Randy, an old friend of Adam's.
Hi, Randy.
Hi. This is actually the first time we've hung out in probably 15 years.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of catching up to do.
That's how great I am at hanging on to friends.
But yeah, people may know me from 1213 rock shows and all ages venue in Anniston, Alabama. Bunch of other bands that I played in as well, like Backseat Virgins and Model Citizen, NC-17.
The Nic-O-teens.
Nic-O-teens, yeah.
Board of Ed.
Board of Education,
I'm
my
going
first
old school
band.
this one.
There might be 20 people that know about that.
That's a cool name, though.
There was actually a band in Atlanta
Yeah.
at the same time called Board of Education.
Really? Was it spelled the same way?
Yeah.
Like Norm
B,
MacDonald.
yeah,
picking
like
on
I'm
Elvis
bored,
Presley?
yeah.
That's so
B-O-R-E-D.
rad.
Yeah, we were pretty cool. I liked the band a lot. It was super cool, but it was kind of stupid at the same time, too. Like our singer didn't really have written lyrics, so we'd come to practice and he'd just, it'd sound awesome.
Yeah.
Vocal lines would sound amazing. We'd just be like, yeah. And then we would get it recorded on like a Magnavox thing and come home and be like, what are you saying, man? And I still don't know to this day. But
It's just a mystery.
Yeah, I think y'all were in that band when I first met you, when we first met. So we first met, I think,
really,
I think we first met in the parking lot of the Quintard Mall, I believe. I want to say that.
wow.
Because back then, it's still sort of this way, but back then, punk rockers or anybody who had the least bit of interest in underground music were so few and far between that, like, even if you hated music, like, okay, if you were squarely into pop punk, you'd see a hardcore guy and you'd still approach him and be
Yes.
like, hey, man.
Yes.
Like, like you'd be like, I hate Agnostic Front, but holy shit, you're wearing an Agnostic Front shirt, so we got to be together. So,
And even more if you saw somebody with a shirt of a band you liked,
Yeah.
you'd freak out,
No.
and you would become instant best friends.
Imagine there was a time when somebody wearing a Ramones shirt automatically meant you could be friends.
Yeah.
It's not like that
That's
anymore.
the way it was. Yeah, no.
Now it means they went to Walmart.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I'm kind of still that way, though. I see a Ramones shirt, and I'm like,
Yeah,
but,
it's,
I'm like a puppy.
yeah, but that's literally like how it's hard to describe. I was thinking about that the other day. Like you just see a guy walking around with a purple mohawk, and you'd be like, I have to go talk to him. I mean, I was a shy person who didn't go up and talk to people. I'd be like, shit, this is all I got. I have to go and talk to him, even though I have nothing. It's kind of like me interviewing people now. I mean, I know Randy, but like interviewing people, like I'll be like, okay, I have to interview Michael Graves. Fuck, I'm shy. And,
Yeah, I was looking at the zine while I was on the pooper,
yes.
and took a photo of it and put it on Instagram for everybody.
All
But
right.
yeah. But yeah, I was reading. I saw you had an interview with him. I was like, man, you get some really good stuff here with the zine. Proud of you, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
Never really listened to his stuff though.
No.
He was the singer for the Misfits.
Yeah,
in the
reformed
80s
Misfits.
version.
The
90s version, yeah.
Reformed in 95. His, when they came through in 95 through Birmingham at 5 Points, that, for a lot of people, that was like a massive, massive important punk rock show for people. Because people who even hated that version of the Misfits went to see him play, like, I'm going to go watch the Misfits suck. And then they put on like this fantastic, like high energy, amazing show. And then they came back for Famous Monsters, and they were like, I don't want to be here. And the audience is like, me neither. And it's like, Earth Crisis is opening for us, and this isn't as good as the last show. I hate to be mean to Earth Crisis, but it was just kind of like, I was just watching like, this isn't. It's like when they came before, it was the Misfits. It was opening for the Misfits were Marky Ramone and the Intruders and H2O, and it was the first version of Mark. It was the second version of Marky Ramone and the Intruders, but they were playing a lot of songs from the first album, which is a little bit more, I guess, less weird, bad pop punk. I remember I let you borrow the second album. You had it for like a long time, and you finally gave it back to me. You're like, I don't really dig it.
Yeah. And thinking back now, I forgot all about him even having an album.
But Marky wasn't very. Marky would try to be funny, and he's not very funny.
Marky's usually a serious guy.
Yeah, but he's supposed to be like a jokester, but he's not funny. Like the last Ramones album, he wrote the song "Have a Nice Day," and it's like, and then you read. I don't know if they could hear the face I made, but yeah, and
it's a great face.
But if you look at like the back cover art for their second album, both of these albums are compiled together on one Marky Ramone album now. But there's actually a song on the first album called "Man of God" that's really good that Marky sings on, and it's actually kind of neat. But anyway, but the second album, like you flip it over and it's like a fake. It has a pill on the front of it. And it's like the answer to your problems or something. I can't remember what the name of it was. But if you flip it over, it has like a cartoon image of like a pill bottle, and you look at like the joke names on there, and it's like Dr. Smiles McFrown, and it's like that's like That's like a black hole to comedy. That's like anti-comedy. It's like anti-matter. That's anti-comedy. Like, get it? His name is Dr. Smiles McFrown.
I found a Marky Ramone book in the Dollar Tree a few months ago.
Yeah, I have his. If it is like his autobiography.
Yeah,
it's actually surprisingly really good.
I haven't touched it.
No, it's not bad. And at that show I bought a marked down Marky Ramone and the Intruders T-shirt. I loved it. It had like a splotch on it. But I loved it. I wore the shit out of it, and it got lost in I kept leaving close to the laundromat, and people take off. I had Ramone's Final Tour shirts. Those got stolen. I had a Rock and Roll High School shirt. You probably remember me wearing those.
Yeah.
I had a Rock and Roll High School shirt, Ramone's Final Tour shirt, all those. Stolen.
That's probably where we bonded, was the Ramones.
Yeah. Jesse hates the Ramones.
No, they're actually...
He's like, fuck those guys playing fast. Why don't they slut shit down?
I've had to defend them to so many people. They're like, they're just cheap 3-chord, blah, blah. It's like, dude, okay, you like the Clash, but you don't like the Ramones. It's like, do you just not like fun? Is that what it is? Does it have to be serious all the time?
I don't like fun.
The complaint that they were, simple musicians, I mean, come on. Like the downstrokes.
It's not easy to do it how they do it.
If you play it as fast as they did, like listen to a live album when they were on top of the game. Like, there's nobody since then that could play that fast that has maybe Teenage Bottle Rocket. I was actually really fast at downstrokes at one point.
I can't even keep up with Adam.
And Adam does the downstrokes.
Yeah, I'm all downstrokes.
I know, I can't keep up. Like, sometimes I'm like, oh, fucking I can do an upstroke here. Like, cheat.
I've been losing my touch with it lately. That's why we got to get the youngsters playing. But, like, Andy does up and down. But for years now with our stuff, it's been usually my guitar with all the downstrumming, and then whoever else plays might do up and down, and I feel like that just gives it a big full sound, so that works for us. We're not trying to be the Ramones anyway.
Yeah.
Because
it's a sound of power when you're
you
doing all downstrokes. Yeah.
I mean, it's like I started out like playing ska, like really.
Yeah.
Well, I mean like ska punk.
Well,
so
when I play ska, I only do downstrokes.
I thought it's all upstrokes though, isn't it?
That's why my ska isn't very good.
You just gotta like be really awkward with it.
Let's see, like reggae's downstrokes and ska's upstrokes, right?
Yeah.
I do upstrokes for all of it.
Ska's perkier.
Yeah.
I always wanted to be in a ska band. Man, I fell for it hard back around, I guess, like Real Big Fish, around that Goldfinger. Yeah. I'm saying some bands that I shouldn't be saying, but man, like
I love all those bands.
I was thinking about Goldfinger the other day, and I was like, man,
Goldfinger was
pretty good.
They were huge for like a nanosecond.
That album,
I mean, they were around for a
MTV,
while.
MTV huge, I guess. Yeah.
the album with like "Here in Your Bedroom" and like all that with the chick with the ray gun on the front. I loved it. Adam's looking at me with pure hatred in his eyes.
I used to sit around with my brother Ryan. We would play Tetris for hours, sitting with that first Goldfinger album over and over again.
I was like really big into like slapstick, because like Lawrence Arms and Alkaline Trio kind of, out from that band. And then, of course, Operation fucking Ivy.
Yeah.
And, I don't know.
I liked
there's
Op Ivy.
so many bands. Yeah, everyone's like.
But my favorite Op Ivy song is like their lead ska song. It's The Crowd. The Crowd to me is better than everything else.
The Crowd is a really good song.
That's way better than anything else they did, and it's the lead ska. So it's like, oh yeah.
I still like what he did after Op Ivy. Like Common Rider was still good to me. But.
Yeah, it's all right. I haven't listened to much Common Rider though.
I haven't either.
I have to go back. That was one of those like, unless you were really deep in the scene or knew the right person, you'd be like, I wonder whatever happened to Jesse. Unless you're really like reading all the right zines and stuff. You're just some podunk kid. I'm like, the Jesse guy, I think he may have died.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all. Yeah, we just.
I remember hearing
stuff.
things like drugs were really bad going on there. I don't know why, but I always felt 15 kind of sounded like them in a way.
Yeah. I can hear that.
I booked the lead singer of 15 in Birmingham at a coffee shop, I think it was, probably about 10 years ago. He did an acoustic thing, and he had a book coming out.
Yeah.
And he's a really nice guy. I can't remember his name right now to save my life, but...
That happens the second swipe with the microphone in front of you.
Yeah, it's microphone syndrome.
I still remember the
What's my
story he
dad's
told me. I don't know if this is legal now, but at the time he was saying like, yeah, if any show ever gets canceled, like for my acoustic tour, we just go to like a laundromat. And he's like, it's actually legal. You can sit in there and play guitar, and people can come and watch you. I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah, the police can't kick you out of a laundromat. Now, I don't think he was talking about setting up a full band.
Yeah,
But
like
acoustic
just
guitar.
like a acoustic
But
thing.
what was cool, right after he played all of his new songs acoustically there that night, he was going to put it into practice for us. He was like, oh, I see this Catholic church down the street. Let's sneak in. And there were like 10 of us going with him, and I don't know why the doors were open. I guess some churches
A
leave
lot of
their
churches
doors
these
open.
days have the doors
I mean, it was like 2 or 3 in the morning.
Then people who were kids when we were kids.
Yeah.
Messed it.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
ruined
messed it
that.
up.
I'm a country boy, so you know
Yeah.
they locked those places up. At
Oh,
night.
yeah.
But yeah. So we went in there, and I still remember that was one of the coolest things ever. He played like some of the old 15 songs, and everybody was singing along. It was like a religious experience.
Really?
Right in the middle of a church. It was like echoing, and it was dark. We had a couple of
those
candles.
places have the best acoustics.
It was-
Catholic Church has got the best acoustics.
It was really amazing. It was much better than the show he just played to
Really?
like 5
I
people.
bet.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that would be really intimately like cool. Because I mean, there's places like the Tabernacle and stuff, but they've been used for this venue for a long time. So
If that happened today, it'd be all over YouTube tomorrow. But
Yeah,
I
that's
don't know if
true.
anybody.
Yeah, then they
You know.
block their doors after that.
yeah, they would.
Like, here's the evidence.
Yeah, and then
YouTube. Let's talk about YouTube.
Let's talk about YouTube because yeah, I'm addicted to it right now. I go down rabbit holes on that
Yeah.
son of a
Oh,
gun,
me too.
man, and like
Yeah, it's terrifying.
I'll be on there for 12 hours.
Yeah,
And I'll
it's-
just be like, oh my back.
It's scary.
so you're doing some music recently, right?
I
I'm
don't make-
planning to do a lot of things this year, and I'm pretty late on those plans.
Damn YouTube.
Yes. But yeah, I did. I guess that was this year when I put out the Widowmaker
Widowmakers this year, I think.
thing.
Yeah, it was March. Because I just got
yeah.
finished. I was looking it up, telling them about it. It was March.
I put it out like a couple days after I recorded it. My younger brother was in town, which we've always been in bands together. He was in Nic-O-teens and NC-17.
I still have an old black and white picture of him that Ash Nagasaki took. It still keeps. It just floats around in my house. I keep finding it in another box. Over there. It's like, it's for a zine that never happened,
It's weird. Me and him kind of fell out of music at the same time. It's been about 10 years since I did anything, on the regular.
Yeah.
So what were your like inspirations for this new project, or was it just kind of like something organic thing that grew,
I did have some new inspirations this time around. Came across this movie called Call Me By Your Name. Did really well at all the award shows. I think it was last year.
Yeah.
And I heard there was this dance scene, and I was just like entranced by the song that was being played and the goofy dance moves that the star was doing. I was just like, oh, this is so brilliant. Man. So I heard the song during the dance scene.
Yeah.
Where the kid's watching the guy. He's kind of falling in love with him at that point. Psychedelic Furs. Not my style of music ever in my life, but I heard it.
Yeah.
Heard that song, and I was just like, man, that's really fucking cool. And so I went down the rabbit hole on YouTube and started watching all the bands around that kind of style. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, I think I can do something. I want to do something super different. And so I just went with it. And I had my mom in there too.
Mm-hmm.
I was just, I was just like, you guys do whatever. Just keep saying this thing over and over again. Yeah, just came together that night. Had an auto harp, which I'd never played on never played before on a recording. Had some fake drums going on. Yeah. So I mean, it really, really out there for something that,
it's definitely different for you, definitely, and it's different anyway. It's very sparse, but there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I guess it sort of kind of reminds me in some ways of some productions from Martin Hannett, even though it doesn't sound like that. Like the guy who did Joy Division and
I can see that.
Early Psychedelic Furs, actually.
Yeah.
Early
a lot of the bands in that.
He did early U2. Like Tick Tock Clock, he did that.
Yeah, I got a very 80s vibe from it, very trippy.
Martha and the Muffins?
Maybe. What about them?
That was another band during that time that blew me away.
Yeah.
It was like after the Psychedelic Furs video would go off, it'd be like, okay, well, maybe you'll like this. You know how it goes. And I got into that one real good, too. It was called Echo Beach. God, what a song, man. And so I just kept discovering all these songs from the 80s that were just kind of not number one hits, but they were in there somewhere.
There was all these, like, almost hits, side hits. And it's just like, how was this?
It's so fun to find that kind of stuff. So I opened my mind up to it, and I don't know, just want to do something different.
I was going to say, that's one way me and you always got along, was the 80s were absolutely not cool in the 90s. The 80s were not cool at all.
No.
But we both liked the 80s.
Yeah.
We liked a lot of stuff that was from the 80s,
but we didn't like the same stuff from the 80s.
No, we didn't like the same stuff.
I liked
you like
Poison,
shit like Poison
and Bon Jovi.
Yeah. I was like, no.
Guns N' Roses.
No.
Yeah.
I was a new wave guy. I like new wave. I still think Cyndi Lauper was hot.
Oh god, we talked about Guns N' Roses on
Cyndi Lauper.
Yeah, I love new wave, man, and synth pop.
I guess it is new wave, the kind of stuff that I was getting into.
I could just stare at Cyndi Lauper while fucking Axl Rose.
I mean, shit, dude, I love the B-52s, and that's like
I love the B-52s. That's another band during that time frame that I fell in love with because I didn't realize how great some of their non-hits were from the first albums.
Yeah, if you just get to see some of their like later hits, you'd think I'm almost as like a novelty band more than a real band.
Because I'm a huge fan of the Nowhere Squares from Birmingham.
Oh yeah, no, they're fantastic. We did Tiger Hillside did a show with them out here. It was supposed to be Studio B, but it was like moved to another location.
Really?
Yep, we played a show with them. I've got a few of their CDs in there.
Actually, Board of Education, that was one of our first shows we played, were the Nowhere Squares. We used to play American Beat in Birmingham, and then the guy that owned that, Russell, after he got kicked out of town or something, he started doing shows in a hotel there in Birmingham, and we played it. That's the first time I ever played with Nowhere Squares, and then I started having them at 1213 a lot, and became really close with those guys over the year. Yeah, their drummer passed away.
Yeah, that was a year ago, something like last year.
It's been
pretty recent, but
yeah. I didn't find out till months later because I just stopped looking at Facebook for a while. And just
if you take a break, you come back and you're like, what all has happened? Start finding out.
So many suicides. Like,
Yeah.
His case was not a suicide.
No.
I want to make that clear. He loved life. He was a really cool guy. But yeah, I get on Facebook every few days now. And it's like suicide, celebrity, or if it's a friend of a friend.
It's somebody, man. And
we had a lot of overdoses happening, and just the thing is, as the zine's gotten bigger, we open up to more people, and then we find out about more people dying. And then for a while there was like 3 issues of the zine that had some like a remembrance to somebody on there.
And if it's not a suicide, it's a symptom of depression that like calls to death, like a drunk driving accident or something. Like it's
a lot of that kind of
crazy.
stuff, and it's just
That's one thing that people really need to look at mental health closer, and it's just not something people talk about. It's like, oh, well, there was a school shooting. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or, okay, we found this illegal guy that killed this beautiful young lady.
Yeah.
It's not because he was here illegally.
No.
It's 'cause he had something wrong with him.
There was something mentally wrong with the guy.
Yeah, I don't think people understand that immigrants are just people that used to be over there and then now they're over here. But like, as far as mental health goes, people don't want to talk about mental health care because they think they're going to have to pay for it.
Well, pundits who are pushing back against gun control, they always say it's a mental health issue, but most of them were not doing anything to help mental health in the first place.
No, they refuse.
So that's where it is. It's like the only time they want to talk about mental health is when they're pointing the blame at something else.
Yeah,
and and they're just using it to as a diversion. They're not actually wanting to help people. Yeah, it's like, I've never seen. And I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but a lot of these, the big right-wing commentators from these different organizations, I haven't seen them donate a whole bunch of money to mental health science or anything like that.
Well, I don't think liberals are either.
No, they're not either.
I mean, it occasionally comes up, like mental health.
None of them have an interest in actually doing that. The difference with the liberal side is they're not trying to use it as a scapegoat. They're just ignoring it.
When a kid goes in and kills a bunch of kids, nobody ever blames the parents. They blame the kid. That kid was, almost in every case. There may be a few cases where they actually were serial killers from the beginning. But most of the time, these kids were bullied and they had bad parenting.
I think back to some of my friends in high school, and I wonder. Like, not my friends, but like the friends of friends, the French guys who'd be hanging out with my friends, and I'd be like, if they were in a school today, would they be like a school shooter or an almost school shooter or something like that? Because there's a lot of almost school shooters. There's a lot of guys who almost shot up a school, and then something stopped them from doing it. They talked them out of it.
Wow.
I had a horrible high school experience. I really did. I got PTSD to this day. I got depression, anxiety. I quit school because of my anxiety. I never felt like I wanted to kill anybody, but was I angry with people who were bullying me? Yeah. And I brought that with me into adulthood. I really did.
I channeled it in music. That's what I did.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's what Board of Education was all about. We were angry at the coaches who were also teachers and had no idea what they were doing. And, they were the same ones encouraging the behavior of the students, the bullying, literally. In PE class, they were. I don't like talking about it too much, but one of my PE teachers called me Speedy because I was the slowest to go around the gym and when we would run.
Yeah, that's some...
Okay. But there was a guy slower than me. Called him Sasquatch. For short, Sass.
Ooh.
So he would lead the students as everybody's waiting. They've already finished their lap. He would lead them into a... Sass, come on, Sass. Let's go, Sass. Let's go, Speedy. I mean,
I also want to point out that no matter what, there was always going to be a slowest.
Yeah, there's got to be a slowest.
There always will be a slowest.
There's always gonna
matter
be a
what,
last
there was
person.
There was always going to be a Speedy, and there's always going to be a Sass.
Yeah, it's
Well,
just
the
like a
thing
Mario
is-
So
Kart
there
race.
was. It's not even like you were going to encourage them. If that in some sick way, it's not like you were going to encourage them to be faster. There's always going to be a slow person.
I mean, I've dealt with mental health issues since like 7th or 8th grade. Like when I started out in school, like elementary school, I was top A student.
Yeah.
And a lot of insurance policies don't even cover mental health, and especially like at
Well,
that young of an age.
now that they mess with the Obamacare thing, like I've noticed that a lot of people's insurance now there's a higher copay, like $40 a visit now, when it used to be free.
And they Alabama could have expanded Medicaid. They didn't. There's all sorts of things that could be done, especially in our state, that are just like, I mean, I think we were on the bottom of the list as far as mental health care goes and healthcare in general.
Instead, we want to point the finger and go like, well, those are murderers. Those are bad people. They're not like us. They're not true Americans and stuff. It's like, we are all the same people, man. We just were brought up differently. We saw different things. You know, it depends. What did you see when you were younger, you know? Did you not see a lot of trauma? Did you not see a lot of abuse in your family? You're probably going to grow up pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, probably be pretty studious. But if you live out in a poor neighborhood and you see violent killings when you're 6 years old and stuff, like...
Yeah, you're going to come out a little bit more violent, probably.
Yeah.
Or polar opposite, where you're just in a shell, you know?
And there's a lot of anti-science in Alabama to where they think that mental disorders don't exist. And I don't know if you guys have come in contact with it as much as I have.
Absolutely.
But it is rapid. And like rabid on Sand Mountain. Like, people just don't think that mental disorders are a thing. They think that it's all spiritual. Like, you just don't go to church. Yeah, just don't go to church.
Yeah. I remember when Kurt Cobain died. I can't remember if it was like a Friday or Saturday. I don't remember.
I can't
but
remember.
anyways,
It was close to my birthday. I knew it was in April. My birthday presents were all like magazines with Kurt Cobain on the cover.
Yeah.
I wasn't a huge fan at the time he died, but I became a huge fan after In Utero came out because I really liked that album.
I really loved his. People don't talk enough about his guitar work. I really liked his guitar work.
Yeah.
Me too. I love Nirvana. Not
He's
ashamed.
just a normal guy, man. And I remember I had to go to a Baptist church when I was younger. That's where my folks made me go.
Yeah, I remember us having
You
discussions
probably know
about
where I'm
church,
going with
'cause
this.
you're kind of sort of pushing away, but still in it. When
Yeah.
we were hanging out a lot.
Yeah. I'm an open book, man. I'll tell you everything about my life just because I want people that may be suffering from the same things I've suffered to know, like, there's somebody out there that's kind of pushing through it, you know, found a way out. But, yeah, I remember the preacher that Sunday after Kurt Cobain died. He was spent the entire sermon demonizing Kurt Cobain as a person.
Ugh.
And I called him out on it. I was probably like 13 or something. But, you know, you're walking out and he's always like shaking the hand of everybody that's walking out, you know. And I called him out on it and, you know, oh, I'm sorry, son, you know, you just don't understand right now, you know.
Yeah.
He was a used car salesman, by the way. And when my grandfather died, who was a member of the church, he wouldn't leave his car lot that Sunday to do the funeral.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the last straw with me in religion. But
Yeah.
My descent kind of started with because of my age. I remember when the war in Iraq happened, when George Bush finally was just like, when God's telling me to invade Iraq. I mean, I think he like legitimately said that at one point, like.
yeah, he used God references a lot.
And I was like, bullshit. And that I was like 15 at the time, and that was when everything changed for me. Do you think that playing music has helped your mental state?
I wouldn't be sitting here with you.
Same. I mean, every day.
I'm saying because, especially being in high school when the verbal abuse started happening, and the bullying started happening. Because me being like a straight A student and even being popular, I mean, I was doing pretty good. And then when high school kicked in, it was like 3 different schools came together to that high school, one of those kind of things. So you got a bunch of different new people in there that I didn't know. So, I gained a lot of weight because I was so miserable. Yeah. Became shy, reserved, angry. That's about when I found punk rock, about 10th, 11th grade. My anxiety had gotten so bad that I would sit in the classroom during classes and beg God for them not to call upon me to read, even just a sentence.
Yeah.
Here I am 20 years later doing something that would have killed me back in the day.
As far as your earlier bands go, were they more angry than your later bands, do you think?
Yeah. Yeah.
So do you
Board
think you
of
were
Ed
channeling in like
the whole reason we called it Board of Education, it was an attack on the school musically, a musical attack.
Who else was in that band with you?
Adam Smith. Also, we were all from Heflin, Alabama.
That's what's up.
We can talk about that queer show later.
Yeah, definitely we should.
Jesse hates the queers.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll get on to that. But yeah, I grew up in...
The band.
Yeah.
I grew up in Micaville, which is right beside Heflin, which is actually one of the world's leading mica producers, which is the stuff they used to put in makeup. It's like shiny, where mica is. Yeah. Where was I going? Where were we?
We were talking about earlier bands. Who was in your band?
Oh,
Y'all
yeah.
from
Adam Smith, and then these 2 brothers, Josh and Stephen Payne.
Was Payne his real name?
Oh, last name Payne, yeah. P-A-Y.
It's fitting, though.
2 really cool guys. They were more metal. They were into metal. But we met in PE, I think. And I heard them talking about, like, I don't know, Metallica or something. They would always...
Metal and punk didn't have much of a... I mean, because they were both outsider music.
Yes.
So it kind of...
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how it was at our school.
So
especially back then, like in a real small town like that.
Yeah.
You see something like we were talking about with the shirts earlier. I mean, even you see somebody with a Metallica shirt.
Yeah.
And you're into Ramones. It was still... There was still a connection.
Yeah.
Because they may have been the only musicians in that school that could play, hard music, rock music.
Definitely.
And so I met those 2 guys, and we just started playing together, and they hated school as well. We're always getting suspended. They were more like troublemakers, just total losers, which they grew up to be awesome people, but...
You meant total losers in the best possible.
Yes.
Total loser is the compliment.
In
I was a total
our
loser
circles.
at that
Cool
point,
punk rock
too.
Yeah.
Adam was kind of cool. People kind of thought he was cool. So that gave us a little bit of leniency, I guess. But we would write, like, anarchy symbols on our hands and stuff. And just, we would, you couldn't buy, like, hair dye back in the day, not in the small town.
No.
So we get, like...
You have to drive out to Birmingham to get hair dyed.
No way.
We wouldn't even do that.
Yeah.
We'd go buy some paint
Yeah.
at Walmart and spray paint our hair.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
How old were you guys, do you think, about this
17,
time?
16, 17,
That's what's
18.
up.
And you see this little space here. I mean, you can vouch for it. My hairline has not moved that much since we last saw each other.
Right.
The reason why my hair is like this is from all the crazy shit I put in my hair. Like, I have this little baldy gap coming in right there. And
I mean, we did stuff even stupider than spray paint. I'm talking about like acrylic paint.
I straight up had acrylic paint. I had this blue and purple acrylic paint. I had gum stuck over here because I read an Archie comic that Jughead had gum in his hair when the barber was trying to cut it. So I took a bunch of, just rubbed it in there, and I mean, I just layered it. There was so much stuff, and honestly, you wouldn't think my hair was thinning if I still did my hair like that, because my hair would just be glued on. It was. I had this, like, when we hung out, I had a little super glue in my hair.
That's amazing.
Because I'd heard that Billy Idol did that, and I was like, I'll do that.
Yeah, there's tons of stories from the time in high school with the Board of Education thing, man. The teachers immediately latched onto us like, oh, hell no. They're fighting back. Like, no.
That's what's up.
And so they started seeing the anarchy symbols everywhere. And all of a sudden, we're like riding the bus to school one day, and there's this perfect anarchy symbol spray painted on a stop sign at the football field.
Yeah.
There's only like 3 or 4 people that could have done this. You know? I'm like, dude, Adam, that's amazing. Did you do that? No. Josh, Steven? No. And I mean, it's back in the time we would have been like, that was cool, dude. Good job. You know? And so we got called to the principal's office. They immediately called us out as a band and said, yeah, we've got the FBI looking into this matter. And they're going to be here in a few weeks to interview you guys about this crime. You know, and we're like, we honestly don't know. Yeah. Like, we can't even spray paint one that looks that good. It's like, that's cool, but we didn't do it. Yeah. And, of course, never got interviewed by the FBI. Of course. But it was just little tactics like that.
Yeah, they do that.
You know what I'm talking about?
I had the problems in my high school, but ours was like, we've talked about him already on here. We had a principal who loved metal, but then when all the metalheads went punk, he couldn't handle it. And he couldn't handle all the preps getting into grunge. So I didn't have a band, but I was always trying to form a band. And that's what you heard those demos where it's just me playing the guitar. That's when I did that. Yeah. But then we made a zine. We made that Teenage Lobotomy zine, which you have seen it back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
And that we had like comics with like pictures of the teacher, like one of the teachers who was stupid. She was one of those teachers that all the students loved because she acted like she was cool, so the students bought into it. And she loved Dead Poet Societies on the last day of class. Everybody stood on their desks and shit. Yeah. But she'd do crazy stuff like argue with my teacher because my teacher had taught the kids in her class a word, and a kid suggested to another kid in her class to use that word, and she said, I don't like your students telling my students words from your class.
That's really weird.
It was crazy shit like that. Like,
I don't like spreading knowledge.
She was nuts. So she was awful, but the principal was terrible, and so, but what we did was we made a zine, and the principal made some reference like, I heard you guys made a magazine right there, like one of the last days of school. I'm like, yep.
Which should be a positive thing.
Yeah, it should be.
Look,
but
look
I mean, if he saw it, he wouldn't have thought it was a positive thing. When he saw our picture of him, he probably wouldn't have liked it. But
I think kids have kind of got it better now. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe there are some small towns out there like I went to that still kind of like living in the past. But I mean, I think you can probably go to school with some dyed hair and
they can
punk
do that.
rock clothes.
In my high school, there was no unnatural colors. Yeah. Anarchy symbol was forbidden. Yeah. In our rule book, you could not wear the anarchy symbol. It could not be showing on anything. And just like weird stuff like that. Of course, no piercings for guys. We got 2,000 signatures.
No piercings for guys.
Yeah.
Totally fine for girls.
Yeah, 2,000 signatures. And my brother also got like 2,000. I'm probably like exaggerating. It's probably like several hundred signatures because there's not even 2,000 people in our fucking town. But my brother got a bunch of signatures for his soccer team. Dude, they ripped both of those up. Yeah. And so my friend just kept wearing his gauges and eventually dropped out of school, switched schools so he could wear his gauges, you know.
Well, I talked before about Ash Nagasaki. He got, at our school, I don't think I called him by his stage name. I think I called him by Kevin when we talked about him in the previous episode. But so Kevin, a.k.a. Ash Nagasaki, he got safety pins banned from our school because he was wearing them, and he told some kid was like, you know, what are those all about? And he was joking.
What is this, prison?
Yeah, he was joking because, he had safety pins. And,
he got something sharp. That's dangerous.
You know that Kevin's not, that Kevin wasn't like a punk rocker. He was more a goth kind of guy. But, so he wasn't thinking like, I'm like Johnny Rotten, like I was. He was like he was just like, I just like them, so I'm wearing them. And
talking about on his clothes.
Yeah, on his clothes. He had safety pins stuck all over his clothes. And some girls asking him like, why he did that, and he was joking, and he goes like, they represent all the souls that I've taken. Yeah. So then it turned into like I had people stopping me in the hallway, and they're like, fuck you doing with those soles on your shirt? I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about soles? What the hell are you talking about? They're safety pins, stupid.
Oh,
But he did that. He got the safety pins banned, and then, of course, everybody was just wearing paper clips.
Yeah, and I think
it's an over exaggeration by the teachers, you know?
Yeah. No, they're just afraid, and that's it. And there's still some degree of that now. It just they change what they're afraid of, and it always adjusts. And I'm sure the kids today just have other stuff bad. Because I took my kids out of school. They're homeschooled because I didn't like what was going on.
God bless you, man.
Yeah, I didn't like what was going on with them. So
with technology and social media, things are probably pretty bad, I would imagine.
Yeah, if that had been going on top of what I was going through,
yeah,
I'll tell you right now, I don't know what I would have done.
Yeah,
I probably would have committed suicide.
Either that, or I've been posting band song videos of the band every day, trying to find. I would have been up in a lot of trouble probably. Yeah. Social media.
I wish I could go back and just know. I wish I could, if I could go back and talk to little Adam, which he was still not that little, but I'd tell Adam that things a whole lot of the shit at the school doesn't matter.
Right.
And that would make a whole lot of difference. My grades probably would have been about the same, if not slightly better. Mm-hmm. And just be, because I recognized that some of my teachers were full of shit. I knew that was enough, because all it takes is for you to know when you hear somebody be wrong, it screws up the rest of what they're saying.
Yes.
That's kind of one way that a lot of, I'm going to go back to the gun argument again, but anti-gun stuff. A lot of times when there'll be reports that are talking about things about firearms. Lots of times they get the details wrong on the firearm. Mm-hmm. Well, you just lost anybody who knows anything about firearms.
Oh, yeah, totally.
I know this as a son of a gunsmith. So when you're watching an expose on television and they get all the information wrong about guns, then it's you've just shut out the people that you were trying to get through to. Because they go, well, they must not know anything else either if they don't know that. And that's not the case. They still might have, their statistics might still be correct. They just don't know about that particular gun. But that's where people need to know things. But that happened when I was in school. I had a psychology/sociology teacher, and she's talking about different subcultures and stuff, countercultures, and we're having to study them. And she's talking about the punkers. The punkers are doing this. The punkers are nobody calls them punkers. There's nobody called punk. Well, actually, they are. It's I'm a punk rocker. It's they're not punkers. And they were talking about skinheads, how they did this and that, But in the thing, obviously the original report was about the English form of skinheads, or you know what I mean, the non-Nazi skinheads.
Yeah, the sharp, basically.
Yeah, and it was conflating it with the Nazi skinheads to where it almost didn't even make sense what we were studying. It was it didn't even match. What are they talking about? How are these guys?
Yeah, we didn't even cover
that. Used to be pretty big in Birmingham.
Yeah.
When we were coming up, skinhead movement.
The neo-Nazi movement?
Sharps. Although there were some neo-Nazis that came down. I was reading some stuff that Ian Wise was writing.
What was it? Slacker 66 venue?
I don't know.
I think that's what it was called. I think there was a lot going on during that time.
I know Sharps, when I was in high school, I know there were a lot of Sharps that would come around the shows and stuff, because I remember my friends would talk about them messing up shows.
Yeah, they would.
And that was at American Beat.
Yeah. American Beat was really cool.
Yeah,
it was a tiny record store.
Yeah. But
but they would have Screeching Weasel there, and
you were a big Screeching Weasel fan back in the day.
I'm a huge Screeching Weasel fan still to this day.
You were a big fan, because I liked Boogada, and you said that was the one you didn't like back then. And I was that's my favorite.
Yeah,
Let's see. Well, we used to go Century Plaza in Birmingham, that mall. It used to exist there. Me and Adam, the guy from Board of Ed, he would just take a risk and buy any punk CD he found.
Yeah.
And
the alternative section used to be a magical section at the record store.
Oh, the alternative music.
You'd go to alternative, and it was everything from, you got to understand, alternative was, parents go, alternative to what? Or alternative to music? And it's but it was alternative. Basically, it was what wouldn't fit in the other categories.
Mm-hmm. It was an alternative to the mainstream sound.
So you had stuff you might have Sonic Youth next to the Sex Pistols, next to, well, obviously they'd be next to each other.
NoFX.
But Faith No More next to Screeching Weasel and the Queers and Alice in Chains, and then Danzig and Misfits and all this stuff that, because Danzig sometimes would be put in metal, but sometimes he got fit in there just because of Sam Hain and the Misfits. But all that stuff would be So if you thought of alternative as like a genre, it'd be like, this is the broadest freaking genre in the world. So the alternative section used to be amazing. You really did not know what you'd figure out what labels you liked, what record labels. But other than that, you were like, I don't know what the fuck I'm taking home.
So a lot of stores didn't have like punk sections back in the day.
No.
Hell no.
They do that now.
Yeah, no, there wasn't a punk section. It was
No,
just, I
there
mean,
was
some did, I'm
not.
sure, but most of them it was alternative. And punk would be, and I mean, there was a lot of shit from indie labels, like I told you before, when we were talking about music saving our lives. I've already said it on a previous episode. I've written it 1,000 times, but Chuck Mosley and original Faith No More saved my life. They got me into music, and they introduced a lot of stuff to me, which I shouldn't have said that because their second album's called Introduce Yourself, but still. But their first album, We Care a Lot, I didn't know anything about buying music, but that was their first album was on Mortem Records. It was the first release from Mortem Records. That's like an indie label, and it was at Century Plaza. And I just went there. You're going to a chain music store. You went to Camelot Music, and in the alternative sections, all these like indie labels next to major labels, because major labels would sign these indie acts just to kind of make themselves look cool at first, and then they would after they started striking oil with Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Soundgarden and all that shit, then they were signing up everybody. So I mean, the alternative section was amazing because you really, I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of shit, like I said, Pearl Jam and Soundgarden. Anyway, but no, they had some okay stuff, and they were a lot better at the time. They seemed more exciting at the time.
So you guys met at the mall, right?
In the parking lot of Quintard Mall.
And how did you end up playing bass with Adam?
Oh yeah, tell us.
Good. So I don't know how we reconnected. We kept bumping into each other. So I bumped into you when I was still living in Pell City. I wasn't going to JSU yet.
People were just weirdos were hanging outside of the Quintard Mall in Anniston just smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
And they'd be walking around the mall, and you'd kind of recognize each other and be like, oh, he's a freak.
Yeah.
I'll talk to him outside when I see him smoking.
Yeah. I had mall security separate me from a guy with a mohawk because we were scaring the hell out of the customers.
That's
They used to
awesome.
kick out kids, if they looked too much like Marilyn Manson or something. they would ban them, yeah. But yeah, I guess that's where we met. And I just remember we used to hang out at his apartment.
Yep.
For all night long. We would just talk punk rock, and man, I've really missed you over the years.
Yeah, I like sitting around talking.
Because we've just kind of like didn't miss a beat. We're right back on it.
Yeah, we went to a pattern for a while there where we get back in touch with each other every couple of years. So it's like, oh, good, Randy's still alive. That's good to know. But
yeah, I fell in love with like Green Day pretty hard, and then I got their first couple albums that were on Lookout Records.
Yeah.
And
which I consider that to be their best stuff to me.
Yeah.
I mean,
I agree.
Yeah, I think I think they grew as artists, but I guess I'm liking them better when they weren't who they were intended to be. I guess I don't know. I like hating them as more. Than I like
their
hating
new
them more
record.
than I hate them.
I love all Green Day, and I like Pinhead Gunpowder.
I like
all of
old
it.
Green Day.
Well, how the Backseat Virgins sound got so influenced by that Ramones core stuff is because of Lookout Records.
Yeah,
Because when I went back and got all those old Green Day albums, we just started buying every band on Lookout Records.
You had everything on Lookout. Didn't you have a Lookout shirt? You used to wear Lookout
Oh
shirts.
yeah, dude! Like we started with like the High Fives. We got the Queers' first album, which we just thought was hilarious. With songs like "I Want Cunt,"
Yeah.
"I Like Young Girls."
Yeah.
It was like that is so disgusting but funny as hell.
Yeah, I had the Queers beat off, and I remember.
That's a good record.
I remember I had the cassette, and I remember taking it to school, and that blew people's minds. That I had first of all, it's like the Queers beat off, and the kids in Pell City, they automatically thought you were gay if you jerked off anyway.
I bought that
That
CD
was so
on a
weird.
youth
It's
trip.
like he touched a dick.
Yeah. My youth director just looked down at that CD when we walked out of the mall, and he's just like,
Yeah, because it has everybody like flipping off like at the front too. So there was just nothing acceptable at school about that thing. You flip it over, and you're just looking at the song titles, and it's just like. But then here's the thing that was mind blowing is I carry my boombox with me when I could to school anytime I could, and I carry all my cassettes and everything. Like if we had like off day, or I would do stupid shit. Like I would do just good enough to be. They had it worked out where if you had your grades good, well, if you had a C average, but you didn't miss any days, you could be exempt from exams.
Mm-hmm.
But I would still go to school anyway, because school's great if you're not having to do school stuff. So I just go to like the art room or whatever, and I bring my boombox. Or I just contradict everything we said about school a second ago. But school's good if you take away the school. That's what I would say. Take away if it's just a big place to hang out, it's not bad.
I wish I did.
So
I had gotten involved with like band or something, you know?
yeah,
Because I just wasn't involved with
No,
anything. So
sucked.
I had no outlet really.
No.
See, I was in high school band, but that was a way for me to get out of gym class. But anyway,
But
what were you
people-
saying?
Yeah, I was in band, and that definitely like made it
yeah.
a little bit better.
But-
Just having like something to
Yeah.
do.
All
with
the-
it.
Playing the Queers beat off on a boombox in there. That blew people's minds further because the cassette sounds like shit. It doesn't have a good sound.
No,
it has like a
That's
really,
just not. It wasn't a
it has
really
a-
good mix album.
it's a very like
It's
muffled.
rough,
It's
dude,
well, I mean,
but it's
and
good.
when you're playing on a cassette, it sounds like your cassette's messed up. Like it sounds like it's like kind of like it's damaged or something because it's so muffled sounding.
Mhm.
And I mean, that's what
Yeah.
I like about it.
Yeah.
Or one of the things I like about it. But when you play that shit for, a guy who's like, you look like one of them devil worshippers. I like Metallica, play it. And it's just
Yeah.
like, what the hell? So
Yeah, we bought all those old Queers albums, and then the Don't Back Down album came out, and we got it home, and it sounded just like the Beach Boys. We were so pissed. And like a few days later, gave it another listen, and the rest is history.
yeah.
I fell in love with that power pop Beach Boys meets the Ramones sound.
Oh yeah.
And I was just, I mean, that was all I listened to for probably 10 years after that.
So after Board of Education, what was your next project you went into?
That's where I went into the Nic-O-teens and NC-17, which was the same band. We just changed the name.
Yeah, that's what I reconnected with you when you had the Nic-O-teens. Like the second time I met you, you had a cassette that had the Nic-O-teens first demo on it, which I still have at home.
Well, we were,
That's good.
me and my brother were walking around Oxford Lake at the 4th of July fireworks, and Neil Casper was also walking around. He was from Ohatchee, and he saw we had a Lookout shirt on or something, and we had like a mutual friend or something that introduced us, and so Board of Ed had just broken up. Well, I didn't really say about the end of Board of Ed there.
Yeah, I never knew how it ended.
The metal and pop punks thing started causing problems in the band
Yeah.
because me and Adam kept going down to like poppier,
Yeah.
and then the metal guys kept wanting us to do heavier.
That wasn't gonna work.
And then Daniel Sartain joined the band for the last couple of months. He was like this 15-year-old greaser that we met outside American Beat. And we just thought he was so cool looking, and he loved Board of Ed because it was kind of like Board of Ed was comical in a way. Like it's these kids screaming about their high school experiences and their teachers. You know, we would call one of our coaches a pube-headed bastard. And he'd just be screaming that in the middle, like a breakdown of a song. And I remember Dan Sartain thinking that was the coolest thing in the world. So he was in a band. He performed with us like once. We played whatever that little place is underneath the plaza in Birmingham at 5 Points. And then after that, we just kind of, I don't know, just kind of stopped playing. It fell apart there. And when we met Neil and his brother Carl, Ryan, my brother, was just going with me one day to meet him days later after they'd seen us walking around the park or whatever. And then Neil's brother, Carl, showed up just for the fun of it too when we met. So the band was really just going to be me and Neil and go from there.
Mm-hmm.
So we go to practice, and Ryan puts on the guitar and Carl puts up the bass.
Brought your brothers.
And
Yeah.
so 2 sets of brothers, and we just started playing. And
It was a long time before I realized that Neil and Carl were brothers.
Yeah, they
Sets
don't-
of brothers.
like,
That's
yeah.
pretty cool.
So I didn't know that. I didn't know that at
They don't
like,
look alike.
at the time.
Like
no.
me and Ryan.
It
yeah.
It wasn't until like a little while after I knew you guys. Yeah, like you and Ryan were very much like a lot like me and my brother. Like you see them, you know, everybody goes Adam and Drew, and
Yeah.
you're like Randy and Ryan,
Yeah.
walking together. There they are, you know.
Yeah. I mean,
So
we did everything together back then, man. We were in the same kind of music, pro wrestling, you know, everything. But so yeah, we went to that first practice with every intention of just me and Neil.
Yeah.
And we were going to find some other people. And so we jammed out and it worked out. And those two guys were more into like the Fat Records bands. And me and Ryan were more into Lookout. So we kind of combined the sounds of both. And so the Nic-O-teens was that kind of a sound, really. You had like the fast drum beat with kind of like the sensibilities of pop punk bands.
yeah.
Sounds fantastic.
It was,
like it.
I mean, we had our moments, and then we kind of started really getting into bands like Alkaline Trio, Hot Water Music,
Those are two of my favorite bands.
Saves the Day, Newfound Glory.
I love those bands as well.
All those bands on Vagrant Records and stuff. We, you know, what you would call emo today, or the bands that sparked
Yeah. the
that
beginnings,
movement,
yeah.
like the Get Up Kids and Sunny Day Real
What'd
Estate.
you think of stuff like Rites of Spring?
Love to get up
Things like that.
Rites
Were you
Rites of
ever
Spring
into
was
that kind of
badass.
stuff?
Was that around at the same time?
No, Rites of Spring would be like a little bit before then.
It was like
Oh, kind of around like Sunny Day Real Estate
Yeah,
and
that's
everything.
like
they were 80s,
they were
weren't
like
they?
Discord.
Oh, I thought Rites of
They
Spring
were
was
they were like the
80s.
beginnings of like the Discord kind of emo stuff. I never knew. They
I
probably
don't think I
influenced
was much into that. The thing was like, I think what turned me on about that, those bands on Vagrant was they were kind of pop punk,
those. Yeah.
but they were kind of serious
Yeah.
too. And so we were getting a little older at that point, like, you know, 19, 20. So like relationships with girls and stuff was a little more serious. So we kind of got into that. And that's why we changed the name to NC-17 and started playing that kind of music.
Yeah.
We were super influenced by a band from Gadsden called the Angry Housewives.
Oh yeah.
Later changed their name to Gaynor.
Yeah.
Oh, I've heard of Gaynor, but I
They were incredible.
heard of.
I didn't know they were the same band.
Yeah.
boys,
I'd heard of Gaynor, but I was more familiar with Angry Housewives.
We were super influenced by them too. So we kind of took the sounds from Vagrant Records bands and took that too. And you know, we even kind of liked bands like Goo Goo Dolls. You know, some of the mainstream hits
early
like
Goo Goo
Bryan
Dolls.
Adams and stuff. Like
Yeah.
the stuff it was kind of rocking, but
Yeah.
also it was kind of emotional. You know.
The Goo Goo Dolls you weren't hearing on the radio, especially the earlier stuff, was kind of. It was punky, but it wasn't punky. Like they would repeat the same lines, and you'd be like they're kind of cheating punk rock style in this song. Like this is.
We even kind of like the Gin Blossoms in a
Yeah.
way. And when I first heard the Parasites, I was thinking about Gin Blossoms. I was like, oh, that kind of sounds like Gin Blossoms, but in a punk rock way.
Yeah.
And so yeah, we had a lot of local success with Nic-O-teens and NC-17.
Oh yeah.
We released some stuff, and we were going to put out I guess it would have been our third album is NC-17, and Neil and Carl kind of they didn't think that we had enough, you know, great songs to release a full length yet, but me and Ryan had like 20, 30 songs ready to go. So we borrowed the recording equipment and brought it over one day. Me and Ron recorded the entire album that was my vision, you know. And they were like, oh, you know, there's like 2 or 3 good songs on there, man. Yeah. And so around this time's when I touched base with Dave Parasite. He was living in Pennsylvania, and he was needing band members. And so we were like, well, we can't really leave home right now, but you want to move to Alabama, you're free to. And he's like, okay. And we're like, what? We're about to be in a huge band, you know. I know you guys probably don't know much about them, but they were associated with like Lookout Records
Yeah,
too. They were on Go Kart Records, if you ever heard of that label, with like Lunatics and
Oh wow.
yeah. So they had done a lot of stuff, toured Japan a lot, toured out of the country, and
Yeah, that was one of those, like, when I heard you were with them, I'm like, what?
yeah.
How the hell?
So I kind of sat down with Neil and Carl, and I was like, okay, here's the songs we recorded for the third album. If you guys don't like it, I'm going to tell Dave to move down here. And me and Ron are joining the Parasites. And so he's like, yeah, I'm just not that into it. I was like, okay. Weird thing, about 10 years later, Neil and Carl fell in love with the demo. And we've talked about it ever since. Like, oh, man, we got to re-record those songs. You know?
And sometimes when you're too close to it, you know, they might have been attaching other stuff to it. And
Yeah,
other
yeah.
things.
I mean, there was tensions at
Yeah.
that time, you know. But it was the best stuff I'd ever written and probably have ever written since. I might give you guys a song to play or something
Yeah,
from that
definitely.
demo.
Yeah,
It's never been released. I think we might have passed it out to some friends and
Yeah.
stuff. But anyway, so Dave moved down, and this was around the time we started 1213, which was originally called Room 213. So everybody knows Aaron Green.
Yep.
He was living there at the time. He's the guy that ran Syndicate Lounge in Birmingham. So he had told me that the local death metal band Trokar, I think they were from Gadsden, weren't they? Or Jacksonville.
I can't remember. They were somewhere, maybe in Jacksonville. They were somewhere in the general area, I know.
But they were getting huge.
Yeah.
And they had a practice space out in Anniston. And they were looking for like another band to come in and practice and help them with the rent. And so I talked there, and I was like, I wonder if they would let me do shows there. So we went down there and talked one day, and Dave and Mike from Trokar, and they were like, hell yeah, man, let's do it. And they were just into death metal, you know. They didn't like anything else.
but death metal.
And so I was like, what do you want to call this? And they already had it chosen. They were like, Room 213. And I was like, what does that mean? They're like, well, that was Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment number.
Oh.
I was like, oh. So I didn't tell too many people about that. But originally, this building, it kind of looks like the Alamo outside when you look at it. But when you would go in, it was kind of like 3 separate rooms. It used to be like an old penny store, like going and get penny candy back in like, I guess, 50s and 60s. It's an older building. And so we started packing out the place originally. I had the Huntingtons play there. They were a Christian pop punk band that did pretty well. They actually went on to win a Ramones cover band contest at CBGB's.
Oh wow, that's cool.
So they got to actually perform with Joey as the Ramones there at CBGB's. So that was kind of the first big band I booked.
Yeah.
And then we got some footage of people just going like, tear down the wall, tear down the wall. So the next couple of weeks we tore down the wall and opened up the room a little bit so we'd have more room. And then the guys from Trokar stayed in for a little bit longer, and then they just kind of lost interest. And they're like, man, if you want to keep the building, you can, you know, whatever. Just don't use the name.
No.
And I'm like, So the address was 12 West 13th Street. And I was like, well, that's close enough to 213. Let's call it 1213 Rock Shows. And so from that point on, it was me only. And I needed somebody with a sound system since they were leaving with that. And so that's where Carl from NC-17 comes in. And so we were partners in the thing right from that point all the way to the end. Dave Parasite, when he was living here, me and my brother just weren't really mature enough to, we didn't know what we were getting into, you know. That was a real band.
Yeah.
You know. And so we made a lot of mistakes in the beginning, and I quit out of frustration after a few shows, and Ryan went shortly after I did, but Dave stayed around, living in Anniston with Carl, and he helped me get a lot of great bands there. You know, he doesn't get mentioned as much, but
No.
you know, he got the Travoltas there. He got me the Teen Idols. He got me all those great pop punk bands, Squirtgun. So having him there really helped the reputation.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
And so the word went around all over the world, and I was getting at least 20 packages, 30 packages, press kits a week.
Oh, wow.
I still have boxes and boxes of stuff. Some stuff still in envelopes, you know. It was ridiculous. But the thing was, there wasn't a lot of local bands to support
No.
the touring bands that were coming through.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's when I started the Backseat Virgins. It was just going to be, hey, I need a local band.
Yeah. Just need a local band to do
It's
it.
a very Adam thing to do. It's like, somebody's got to do it, so I'll do it, you know.
Yeah. And so we had that. And then there was a band from Heflin, the Yellow 5. And they came out and played. They weren't that good when they first came out, but they brought like 50 people with them.
Really?
It was like the biggest turnout we'd ever had up to that point. And so from that point on, like, local bands just started sprouting up around that time.
Yeah, I know Babylonia's Monologue played out there. I remember them talking about playing out there.
Under that name?
Yeah.
It's an interesting.
Now they're now the version of them is now Gasoline Tank.
Oh.
It's Jason and Jessica from Pirate Nights.
Yeah.
A lot of the bands, a lot of the local bands, these kids were from like Tuscaloosa and Birmingham, and they'd be like in 13, 15 years old. It was an all ages space, you know. So we let whoever come in. If you sucked, it didn't matter, you know. We gave everybody a shot from Alabama and
But
Georgia.
I feel like that's how it should be, you know.
Yeah.
You know, especially all ages venues. I've seen some. That was something that put me off with. I'm going way back. Okay, I remember going over to watch Nic-O-teens try out to play at CD Cellar.
Really? We tried out?
You tried out. What's his name? I
So
forget.
Larry May, the owner of
Yeah,
City Cellar,
he came over to y'all's space to watch y'all
in
practice.
Ohatchee?
Yeah.
Wow.
Came out to watch y'all play, wherever that was. I couldn't remember where it was. I know we went out there because me
Yeah,
and Kevin.
that's
me
where we
and Kevin went
practiced.
out there.
Yeah, because you guys came out
Yeah,
quite a few times.
So he came out there to watch you play, and he's like,
I
"Yep."
think I'm
And
recalling
he's like,
it.
"Yep."
Yeah.
And Aaron and the JP, they were gonna do
Tailgaters.
was it Tailgaters they were gonna do then? I couldn't remember if there was something before Tailgaters, but I think it was the Tailgaters, like early version of the Tailgaters, and it was just them. And they
Yeah.
But they tore through a few songs, and I thought they were like fantastic. I mean, you know, I felt like you guys clearly had it together better, which was definitely the case because they were kind of starting. But they were great, and I remember him being like, "Yeah, you guys can go with them." And I remember thinking like, how odd, because it's just a
Well, Aaron was actually working for Larry at that point.
So it's just like I was thinking like, how odd that like you're picking that this other band can't play. It's like it's just bands playing a record
Oh,
store.
that's a shame.
I'm like, let the kids play. And I was like, I thought they were fun. I don't know what. I ratted him out.
You know,
I just ratted Larry out
really-
like 20 years later.
You know, mentioning Dave Parasite, I really need to mention Larry May too, because there was absolutely nothing going on prior
No, there was nowhere
to
to play.
12-13. Nothing.
Let me say this. I'm going to interrupt with this. Let me interrupt you.
Absolutely.
There's a reason why I've never set foot in Brothers Bar.
Okay.
Because I was completely anti-Brothers when I lived out there at JC. Now I will go to Brothers.
Was it just because of the jocks and stuff?
No, well, that didn't help. But, you know, remember I was going to JC. I was walking around with like a giant sketch pad that said "frat guys suck" on it. And, you know, so
There's a lot of hippie bands were playing
but
there.
there was a lot of Matchbox 20 wannabe bands.
Yes,
and shit.
yes.
And like metal bands were turning into like that and stuff. So, but
Yeah.
what happened was me and Ash Nagasaki all dressed up in our fancy clothes, as we were prone to do. We didn't dress normal like I do now. And,
No, they did not.
no, so we went to Brothers and we tried to give whoever it was from there, I can't remember, it's been so long, a demo. And he like looked at us and wouldn't even take the demo.
That's
Like,
amazing.
I mean, the
Like-
owner, Dan Nolan, or was
I don't-
this just...
I mean, it's been so long ago, I can't remember who the guy was or anything. The dude straight up was just like, yeah, no. No, we don't, no, it's fine, no. It's like, well, you want the demo? I was like, no. It's just like,
What about 92J, too? We need to
Yeah.
bring that up as well.
well, I
The
got,
radio station of Jacksonville.
yeah.
Like, they had some pretty cool shows on at the
Yeah, they
time.
got some good Bozeman and the Mule. You know,
Yes,
Bozeman
those...
he gave my first band, the Mostly Harmless, some radio play. He played our cassette, but the heads were dirty on their tape player,
Yeah.
and they played the cassette. And I mean, our cassette sounded rough anyway, but
Yeah.
we played "So in Love," and it sounded like shit. it was worse than that. Like I'm talking about, like it was muffled way worse than that Queers album. It was like, and he's just kind of like, yeah, and we're like, that's not what it's supposed to sound like. No, it don't sound like that kind of shit. You know? And we made him play it again, and it did the second time it was good. But yeah, because we'd go out there and hang out there. Aaron would come out there, and I remember Aaron one time we heard all this like hollering and screaming like way off in the distance, and Aaron comes speeding up in his car, and he's like, and it's like, what was that? He's like, I was just doing donuts outside the frat house. It's like, fuck you guys. And it's just like, and then you drove over here? What the hell are you doing? Because see, my dorm was like right across from the JSU station, so I could just walk across.
I loved what they did at 92J, but I was the same about Brothers. I wasn't really into that either. They just didn't. It was like they'd bring Driving and Crying in once a month, and that was kind of the big deal.
Yeah, constant. Yeah. They had Ethan and the Ewoks.
Yeah.
Like I said, creative writing.
That's a
Ethan.
local act here.
They had like the Velcro Pygmies when I was there, and then they had like, I think Devil's Got a Hold of Me get played, and I didn't know who they were at the time. And my only friend was like, "You coming to the show?" And I was like, "What kind of band are they?" He's like, they're kind of like metal." Yeah. And I was like, totally not a good representation, so I ended up going. And then Kill Baby Kill was the only other band. That's the only time I actually made it out.
That's the thing. Brothers later on had better bands, but it didn't.
I actually
and apparently had
booked
better
some
bands before then. I guess because they'd had like. Not that I would have just loved to see a ton of metal bands, but apparently they had some like metal bands. And
it
shit
seemed like
but,
a frat bar dive. To me.
I mean it was.
It was hippie. There was a lot of hippie kind of bands going on at the time, like Sand. Those guys were really awesome, but they kind of brought out that kind of crowd too, like people that were really into Korn and stuff. That kind of crowd. You know, there wasn't a demand
there wasn't.
for anything other than that, so you can't really blame.
Yeah, you can't knock them that bad, but you know, when you're pissed off 19-year-old Adam Harmless.
They definitely weren't trying to, reach out to any kind of new genres of music either.
Yeah, the guy was a douche with me. That was the only thing, and I don't even remember who it was. Shit, you know, it could have been like some guy who had nothing to do with the place.
Might have just been like a door guy.
Yeah, it could have been.
He was like, no.
But I can't remember who it was. It had to have been when they weren't open or something. I can't remember how we got to them, or anything. They had probably called them ahead of time or some shit. No telling.
But I can tell you, the first time I met Larry and Aaron Green was in the same meeting.
Yeah.
My friend Ryan Haynes said, "Yeah, they've opened up a new record store here in Linlock. Why don't you come down and check it out?" So we went in, and Aaron and Larry were behind the counter, and Aaron was like, "You're in the Nic-O-teens." I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "I'm in a band called $7 Socks. You're about to have some competition."
Dude, that's fucking awesome.
They were so, bless their hearts. Aaron, I love you.
When they started, it was sloppy, man. When they started,
But Aaron, with like his early bands, would be like, "We're so great, except for this one guy, and we're about to kick him out." And then they'd kick out somebody and be like, "We're so great, except for this one guy who's not really there. We're gonna get rid of him." And it'd just be like, but then like after a while, I swear I was waiting for him to just be like, man, I'm out.
It was me all along.
That's all I was waiting for that. But he was always but he was very pro what they were doing, but there was always a weak link that he was. It was always funny to me. But I mean,
ended up, he was out.
Yeah.
The lead singer, Chris Wagner, moved to Tennessee, found this amazing drummer, amazing guitarist, Luke and Sal, and they had some great success in Nashville. They were like, they'd hooked up with like this promoter, and they were packing out like 1,000 people a show at the skate park.
Even just wandering around out here, $7 Socks was just hot stuff because we used to make fun of them. it's just like it's music for it's like just they're gonna play to a bunch of teenage girls.
They were like MXPX.
Yeah.
Everybody was attractive. The girls loved them.
Yeah.
But I loved them.
Yeah.
I thought they were fantastic.
We made fun on, but I actually liked them better probably than their influences. Like
absolutely they were.
I make fun of a lot of bands that are my friends' bands that I love, and I love the people in them. But.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of MXPX that much.
MXPX
I'm wearing that
sucks,
shirt.
Andy. That MXPX shirt.
Dude,
you know that the lead singer played Smoking Moose a couple of years ago.
Oh yeah, Mike. That's cool.
Yeah.
Which
was even cooler. My brother and one of the guys from $7 Socks were in a band together at that time, and they had talked to him previously before the show, and like, hey, we're huge MXPX fans, and y'all want to play, you know?
Yeah.
And so they got up there and did some MXPX songs with him. It was pretty amazing.
That's awesome.
He's a cool dude. So yeah, there's weird little shows like that happen in Anniston from year to year, you know? You remember in that movie, SLC Punk?
Yeah, that movie changed my life.
That movie, I think we probably watched that movie the first time together.
I was in 5th grade when I saw that movie. It changed my life.
It was a great movie.
It was no turning back after that, after I watched that film.
Yeah. Did you know I had the band from the live scene play 1213 a few times?
No way, really?
The $8 experiment.
Yeah, dude. Because I used to have to, I had to find their, like, who they really were and everything online. That's
who
really
they
cool.
really were was kind of strange. They had that one punk song, and the rest of their songs were like a bar band.
Yeah.
They weren't a punk band.
So did they have that song recorded before the film, or did they make that song for the film, do you think?
I don't have that knowledge, but...
Because that's what I was always wondering.
But I can tell you, when I booked them, the kids thought that was a big deal. They kind of packed out the place.
Yeah, that's a shit.
And
that's badass.
they started off their set with that song.
Yeah.
And everybody would go crazy, and then it went and kind of like just mainstream rock, bar rock, I would call it. I was really surprised at the difference there. But they were super cool, super professional. We had them back several times.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Like, it's really surreal. And it's funny that you were talking about all these, like, you know, bands that were my heroes growing up, and then just mentioning the band from SLC Punk's the one that blows my mind.
It blew my mind at the time.
I just remember the song's called Fuck Off and Die. You know?
That's the thing when somebody says, like, what's the most popular band you had there?
Yeah.
It depends.
Yeah, it depends on what your perspective
I mean,
is.
you know, to you it may be the $8 experience, you know?
Seen by more people, probably. I mean, a lot of people saw SLC Punk.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I had known pop punk and stuff, you know, before then, and I'd known, like, the Ramones, the Clash, the Pistols, like, you know, I just gotten introduced to them, and I saw that movie because my friend, like, he was really into MXPX and shit. He was just like, you gotta watch this.
I just noticed you're wearing an MXPX shirt in the room.
Yeah, no, always happens with us. But, you know, and he's just like, you gotta watch this fucking movie. So we, like, watched it, and then, like, the guys whose bass amp that is right there, Brandon Wilt, you know, we're just like, there's no fucking turning back now. We have to punk rocks the rest of our lives, you know? Like,
but yeah, we were already entrenched in it. But we watched, I remember we watched SLC Punk and Orgasmo. Those were our big movies that we watched. We watched
I
those.
loved Orgasmo.
Yeah, we watched the shit out. I rented Orgasmo and we made a
It was
bootleg
the
copy.
South Park guys.
Yeah, and then now you're a man.
Yeah.
Man,
No,
man,
and see,
man.
nobody, but nobody believed me. Like people would, I mean, Randy did. He'd go for it. But like a lot of people are like, why are you renting this piece of shit? I'm like, no.
It's great.
This is gonna
I
be
don't know if I
fantastic.
would like it now,
No, it doesn't hold
but as
up.
like a snickering teenager,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, and there's still some funny stuff. The running jokes aren't as funny in it. You
Yeah.
know, but
The
it's-
just give me a sign scene is
Yeah,
the best.
yeah.
That
but there's
still holds
okay
up.
stuff. It's still okay somewhat, but it's yeah.
Basketball holds up.
Basketball's not a good movie. South Park guys, but the guys who did Airplane.
It was okay.
You'd think it would be not the guys, but one of the guys.
I liked it at the
It's-
time.
it's
I don't
okay
know if
for
I would
what it
like
is.
it now.
I caught myself accidentally quoting it that like 2 days ago because somebody's like, "What have you been up to?" And I didn't want to answer, so I was like, "Yeah, you know, it's around playing video games."
Yeah. But,
So if I hadn't been playing music for the past 10 years, what have I been doing?
yeah, where have you been?
Yeah,
what's
well-
been happening? Tell me, talk us.
The Portal.
I've watched a lot of movies,
All right.
and I've done a lot of studying online,
Right.
and going down weird conspiracy holes and
Oh.
rabbit holes. What do you think about conspiracy theories? Anybody got any weird ones
The
that you believe? Like,
ones I believe.
you're looking. Adam's looking at me like, yeah, I'm not a
see,
Adam
conspiracy.
doesn't believe in any
I-
conspiracy
I want to
theories.
believe in conspiracy theories, and I never believe hardly any of them. And I hate that the right has stolen our conspiracy theories.
Yeah, they have. They've used it like.
But they're conspiracy theories that used to, like chemtrails was not a right wing conspiracy at one time. Chemtrails was just like people were wondering about them.
Let's go around the
Yes.
room and say yes or no on some popular ones.
Okay,
Okay, chemtrails. Adam,
no. Am I supposed to say more?
I'm also gonna say I don't believe it as well.
I
I don't think it's an intentional thing like the chemtrail thing. Like I don't think that they're trying to like spread demonic spirits or whatever it is people say, or they're turning
the
the frogs
chemicals
gay.
trying to get us cancer. And
Yeah.
I don't believe.
I mean, it was
I
on
don't
Unsolved
believe
Mysteries, so it has to be true.
What about you, Andy?
I'm gonna go full in on this one and say yes.
All right, tell us why. Tell us why.
No,
Oh,
I'm just
okay.
kidding.
Even
I'm just kidding.
ironically, if you want to tell us why,
no,
just
that's everybody said.
Yeah,
so
if
I
it's
wanted to be
controversial
different.
and you believe it, say it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll just go from there into the weather changing devices. That's kind of along the lines
That's
of the
I guess with
chemtrails.
chemtrail stuff. I think they're okay. I think weather changing devices can happen. I don't think they're currently being used. At
Yeah.
least not used in a way that would do anything.
You think they have it? They're just not using
Yeah,
it.
I mean, I
Or
think
is
we have the science worked out to do it. We just don't do it. I mean, we already could be changing weather stuff just by like how we would direct our like jetliners going across the ocean and stuff like that would change things. So we already could do that.
I'm on the fence
Yeah.
because weather has been weird in Alabama
Yeah.
the last several years.
Yeah.
And that could
It
be
has.
global warming. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
there's been a lot of weird things in the sky, weird cloud patterns, and I don't know.
I can't ever get anything done
Yeah.
outside.
How about you guys?
Sorry.
Sorry, no, it's fine. I do think it's in the realm of possibility, like because there's so much, as far as advancements go that we don't know about that people don't want us to know about, like the general public. But I also think climate change is also just as or more plausible. But I mean, there are some like California's on fire right now. Like we have extreme temperatures and we have extreme temperature changes, and why that's happening is why I'm not a science major when I'm discussing this. But
I
I mean,
do believe in
it's
climate
entirely
change.
possible.
I definitely believe in that. That's Adam saying that. Adam
Yeah,
says climate change.
I don't really consider climate change a conspiracy though.
No,
Yeah.
I was just putting that in there.
I think it's
Yeah,
Since you mentioned it.
since I mentioned it.
I think it's possible. Like, I just think like if we could really change the climate, I mean, like why wouldn't we have done that? Like why wouldn't we
Yeah,
have
but
already
like
like
weather
I mean,
stuff,
yeah. I mean, like I feel like our weather would have been like less crazy. It would have been more stable. Like our weather would be more stable if we could change the weather, right? I mean,
I don't know how you feel about this, but I think the general opinion on that is to create fear and hysteria. but I'm not
yeah.
sure.
I mean, that makes sense, I guess.
What have you
If
heard
it's like,
about that
if
kind of
it kind
conspiracy?
of ties in with like an Illuminati kind of
And
thing, but
you're
like,
speaking about the
changing of the weather.
like.
would it be used to like create
Well, why would they do
fear
that?
And
I think they would use it. I hope. I look for the best in people.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that they are coming up with it for countries that have major droughts. You know,
See, that would be amazing.
like think about Africa, where you don't get a lot of rain and you don't have a lot of crops, and people are starving to death. I think that's why they're starving to death.
yeah, I mean, I can see how it'd be very useful.
It'd be
'cause, I
very
mean,
That would be very
beneficial. That'd be
useful.
awesome.
Even
And
in,
then you
like,
see
the United
all-
States, there are places like in the middle of the country where there just doesn't get a whole lot of rain because you don't get that Gulf moisture, or like from the Pacific, the moisture coming in where it doesn't rain that much. But also like you're talking about, you know, people just don't have like water to drink.
Or if we could kind of disperse a really dangerous hurricane coming up and kind of split it in two or something where it's not going to be as bad. Like not have another Katrina if we saw one coming up and it looked really bad and we could mess it up a little bit.
The thing is, I could see scientists, like they could be looking at going, well, this could end up causing problems somewhere else. And there might be so many minute things that even they couldn't see.
A
that we
butterfly
wouldn't see.
effect.
Oh, it would turn
So-
into a weapon almost automatically.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And be like, okay, I'm going to send a hurricane instead of my troops.
Yeah. just-
Yeah.
okay. Well, that's where like drone strikes come in, because drones, you're not using up your troops when you're doing drones.
Mm-hmm.
So it's even more horrifying to the people who it's being used on. But for the people using it, it's like, oh, this is nice.
Yeah, sending a hurricane someone's way sounds like something like Saruman would do, you know, in Lord of the fucking Rings and shit. You know, it's like, holy shit, dude, if they have that technology, is that magic or is it technology? It's got to be. I mean, that's intense. You know, what like I don't know, it kind of blurs the lines like with Thor, you know, when he talks about in those movies you guys hate. And he's like, in Asgard, the stuff that you call science would be called magic. I don't know, that's an interesting concept I haven't really thought about, is people being able to manipulate the weather. But there are a lot of good things that could happen. But every time there's something cool that could happen, someone's like, could use that as a weapon. It seems to
There's
be.
tons
Just
of
like-
stuff on YouTube about it.
Just like with artificial intelligence.
I mean, if they can pass the Turing test, humankind will be over. Like, if we make them powerful and like, you know, kind of self-aware.
Well, here's my thoughts. Okay, if we have artificially intelligent robots walk around doing stuff, because we wouldn't want to just have robots walk around doing stuff because that's creepy. Like that thing Honda made. Like nobody wants that.
Oh, that thing's
Nobody
hilarious.
wants that weird looking piece of shit.
Is that the thing that
wandering around
falls
their house.
over or whatever?
No, not that weird thing.
Oh,
There's
the
one
dog thing.
There's like this one thing that just does this weird little walk with his legs, and he looks like this cute little robot. But you see him walking all fluidy, and you're just like, ew, I don't like that. But the more we'll be like, okay, well, let's try to humanize them, and they're gonna look like video games. Which video games, as nice as they look, still look like shit when they try to do real people. You might be impressed with them now, but in 10 years, you're gonna be like, no, that doesn't really look that good.
I don't know. Have you seen the new like humanoid bots in Japan?
Yeah.
It's pretty
They're
intense.
pretty intense, man.
So, but when they walk around and really start talking,
Oh yeah.
that's
This
what I'm
is
saying.
just-
They're not gonna look right.
This is just normal sitting down
That's what I'm saying.
conversation. Yeah, like it's gonna be kind of like that movie,
Because-
Artificial
because
Intelligence.
we use so many muscles, and our skin is so elastic and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what happens: is we want to evolve that, because we got to get rid of that uncanny valley, because that's creepy as fuck. You don't want some
Mm-hmm.
non-person walking around just looking crazy at you. With their face,
Yeah.
with their face not moving right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll work on that. Eventually, we're going to get better at it. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so we're going to end up with robots with artificial intelligence that look exactly like people.
Yeah.
Eventually, we'll have that. Okay, and then we can boss them around and tell them what to do, and they can do all this crazy shit. And we'll be comfortable with it because we'll be like, okay,
They're not really.
they're not really people, and they're not freaking me out because they actually look like people, and I can do whatever I want to with it. Now, we're not hurting real people, but you could basically just grab your sex robot and just obliterate it and do whatever the hell you want to with it,
Yeah.
like a sick who knows what. And people would do that. And people could use the argument, well, at least they're not doing it to real people.
Ooh, I never thought about that.
It's just like video games. Yeah.
But here's the thing we're looking at, though. The people we're still having people who would want to do these horrible things to something that looks like a person that would want to do that. And eventually we'd build up the artificial intelligence to where it'd be very close to a person. So basically what we'd be doing is eventually going back to slavery.
Oh yeah, no, that's exactly.
It's going back to slavery, but we've made our own slaves.
And then the seed of revolution would be somewhere. Because
Well, I mean, these slaves would be not just powerful because they've been purposely and deviously bred to be stronger. These slaves straight up will outwit us, outnumber us, and I mean, it would just be something easily wiped out. They could just cut off our oxygen and we're dead.
So very, very exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Well, that's why we need that weather machine. Take out those damn robots.
So everybody's always like, "There's gonna be a zombie apocalypse." I'm like, "Nah, dude, the robots, dude."
The robots are the zombies.
Yeah, and
When they keep walking in the sun all day chasing us.
And the weird thing about it is I get excited. Like, I'm like, my job's about to be taken away. We're all going to get killed. But robots are cool.
Well, that's one of those
It's
classics.
like, damn it, I deliver pizza. Man, I'm screwed.
Yeah, they're just going to be flying around
that's
shooting
the
pizzas
sad,
into windows.
The sad thing of our capitalist society. And I actually do not have an answer for this. So I'm not going to go too political with it because I don't offer any answers whatsoever. But it is kind of fucked up that we live in a world where it's a bad thing that machines are taking away our jobs.
Well, the Jetsons promised us the opposite.
Well, I want machines to take away our jobs. We don't want jobs.
Yeah.
What do you think about our downfall first? Will we escape into some virtual reality, or will we create humanoids that we will torture, and then there will be a new uprising?
Neither.
Dude, you may already be in virtual reality.
Yeah.
Elon Musk, you
Another conspiracy
motherfucker.
theory.
What is consciousness to begin with, man?
Yeah.
What if you got a little headpiece on somewhere and you've been doing this for how long you've been alive in this world? When you die, you wake up and they go, "How was it?" And you're like, "Whoa, oh my God, what?"
I would have been like, "It fucking sucks. Play some good music." Like,
That's another conspiracy theory. That's
The whole Matrix thing and everything that goes along with that.
are you a simulation?
a simulation theory.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's
Well, there's also the people who walk around and they think that there was variations of it before, but it has become more specific since the Truman Show, where there's people who walk around and they think they're living in a TV show.
God, the Truman Show is so fucking good.
So they go and they just like look at like they're looking at mirrors and holes in walls and stuff, and kind of winking at it like.
Well, yeah.
Consciousness.
Yeah.
See, that's
Man,
like
I
that's the
spend
meth.
hours and hours watching stuff on that
But that's
and reading on
reasonable
it.
because I mean, as far as I know, you guys are just actors who are put here to interact with me.
Well,
Because I don't know what you're thinking. I don't know what you're feeling. When I hit you, I don't feel pain. I mean, I feel joy when I hit you. I don't.
Kicking your
I gotta
ass
be
is a
ca-
gateway
I
drug,
gotta be
man.
careful how I say it. I'm like, I don't feel anything when I hit you.
Yeah.
That sounds like a sociopath. I feel nothing when I hit you.
Yeah.
But no, like I don't know what's going on. So you guys literally could just be some program that's doing it. But I'm that to you too.
Well, everyone's
Yes.
everyone's
and
the
that's where
hero.
sociopaths and other people like that have problems.
I have
They don't
no
know what's-
evidence that any of you guys are real.
No.
And we all want to be the heroes of our own story. We
Well,
all want to
well-
be the protagonists.
Well,
too,
you mentioned
so.
earlier that we just pick up right where we left off. Well, it's really easy to do if I don't exist. You just start the program up. They just like aged me. They fattened me up, put some gray in my
Man, I
So,
love.
think
I
about
could
that.
go hours on consciousness,
Yeah.
man. That is. I study that all the time because like I've had some major health problems over the last 10 years too. I've had.
I was going to ask if you wanted to talk about.
Sure,
I should have asked you
sure,
that. I should have asked you before I put a microphone in front of you.
No, I'm an open book pretty much. I really am. Like I said, if somebody has issues like my own, I would like them to hear somebody that's kept fighting and living through it and still feeling good about life. I had a heart attack in 2009, 2010 when I was living in Austin, Texas. It was after the tour we went on with Backseat Virgins and the Queers. And the band kind of fell apart. And me and Nita, she's the other singer in Backseat Virgins, we started out as lovers before. Well, actually, I heard she was a singer through a friend. she came over one day. I was in Model Citizen at the time, and we had stopped playing a little bit, and I was like, I think I'm gonna bring back another version of Backseat Virgins in Birmingham. I was like, I kind of want to have like the Virginettes, have like a little like few 50s like dancer girls in the back singing vocals.
Yeah. Pretty badass.
And so I met her at the Upside Down Plaza through a friend and asked her to come over and audition. And she had a couple of Backseat Virgin songs, came in and sang. I started singing instantly. She had these amazing harmonies. And I was just like, God. Because I never thought I had that great of a voice at all, really. I mean, a punk rock voice. But when she sang with me, man, I was like, this sounds good. So I immediately was like, do you want to be in the band and just forget this whole backup singer thing together and just do this? She had never heard of any punk rock at all. Wow. Her favorite singers were like Whitney Houston. She studied that stuff when she was a kid. Like, she'd sit in her room and sing Whitney Houston all day. And favorite band was the Cranberries. She really wasn't into the music in the beginning, but she learned to fall in love with it. You know, she loves some pop punk bands now.
Well, I guess that's how she was able to contribute so much, is that she's coming at it from a different angle.
I think it's a wonderful thing to get in a band with somebody who's not exactly on the same page as you, but they're open to what you're doing.
That's how I am with these dumbasses.
Because every leader of a band has a vision, and I think everybody should kind of go with that vision. But if they add their inspirations
what makes
too,
them special about it?
Yeah, that's what makes the band special, really. That's what makes them different from any other band. And I think when she came into the band, that's when things got serious, because we didn't sound like every other band. Kind of sounded like Teen Idols a little bit, but...
Not a bad thing.
Yeah. But the songs weren't really exactly like what they did. And we fell in love. And she was still living at home at the time, and she would just like come over to my apartment, and we'd spend days together. We'd buy a bottle of whiskey and just sit and talk about everything. Like, we're sitting in here talking. That's what we would do. We'd go in deep subjects like all day long, just sitting in the bed looking up at the ceiling. Like, I'd found my soulmate. And back then I was still dealing with stuff from high school and dealing with becoming popular when I'd never been popular before.
Yeah, and so it's, especially when you have anxiety, that's a strange feeling.
Yeah, that's the weird thing. We'll touch on anxiety again here in a minute, because I really want to tell you how bad it was in high school. But with our love affair, man, I can tell you now, I've never loved anyone like I love Nita. She is like, I've never had a sister. I have two brothers, but she's like straight up a sister at this point. But I could see like later on in life, if we never find the one, I could see us sitting on the porch together at 80 years old, you know, and go ahead and get married. But she's so talented. She is easily the most talented songwriter I've ever met. I don't know if you guys have ever kind of listened to her stuff, the Sister Sniffle stuff, and
I don't know. I have reviewed it.
And Boringham. She's doing Boringham now too. But anyways, back to what I was saying. I was getting a little popular with the ladies in Model Citizen. Model Citizen was kind of like the biggest band in Birmingham at the time. And so I'd never cheated on Nita, but I would flirt with girls like crazy at shows. And it was just like, I couldn't help it. Just because I never had that attention. And I'm not making excuses, because that's... I'm saying that's the mistakes I made that led to us breaking up. And it was a pretty nasty breakup, but we kept playing together. But by the time we went on the Queers tour, we were both like just really messed up about it. And we'd been broken up a few months. So we both kind of went crazy on that tour.
I bet.
And there's Mike's crazy ass, the drummer, Mike Gott. He videotaped everything. And man, it's if we released that, dude, we'd be instant celebrities. It's that crazy. I really doubt everybody would sign off on it, but one day I would kind of like people to see it, because it's basically a band's dream coming true at the worst possible moment.
Yeah.
So when we came back from tour, the band was never quite the same after that.
No.
So that was super crazy emotional with the breakup and the tour and everything. And so back in the day, before like online dating became really dangerous, in the beginning it was kind of innocent.
Yeah.
And so after we broke up, I met this girl from Dallas, Texas, and I just needed to get out. So we'd known each other for a couple of months, and she was going to move to Austin, so I was like, fuck it, I'm going to move to Austin with you. I flew her out to see me in Birmingham twice. I saw her twice. And then we moved in together in Austin. And that was in 2008, like right after the tour. And when I got there, running away from your problems does nothing. Because once I got there, I was horrible to her. Like, I just sat there and got wasted every night. We never explored Austin, never went. I mean, occasionally, like Southwest, we'd go see some bands and stuff. But I mean, she was a good girl to me, you know. And I don't know, it didn't work out. And I was drinking heavy. We're talking about like Still Reserves, you know. You ever have one of those beers? Like,
oh yeah, the next morning is the worst part of it.
In Texas, like
the Ramones made advertisements for them.
They did.
They did.
Yes, they did. I've seen that.
Yeah,
that was a really cool thing.
Ooh.
Thanks for lightening the mood there.
They tear my asshole up. That's what they used
The
to
Ramones?
no, the Still Reserves, man. I couldn't stomach them, but yeah.
They were like 2 or 3 more percent more alcohol in Texas. Like, you could get them really strong there.
Oh, wow.
And I'd drink like a 12-pack of them a night. Right after work, I would come home and do that and smoke like 2-pack cigarettes. And we had this amazing apartment where on the balcony you could see downtown Austin, and the interstate was just right there. And I'd call up all my punk rock friends, my heroes and stuff that I'd had phone numbers to, and I'd just call them, like, talk to them for hours, boring the shit out of them because I'm wasted, you know, telling them the same stories over and over again. But they were so cool to me, you know. They would sit there and listen. Like, I'd love to call out, like, Perry Travolta from the Travoltas, Kepi Gooley, Pat Termite from the Beatnik Termites. Man, I'd call them, and Dave Parasite. We'd just talk for hours all night long. Me wasted. The guys from Teenage Bottle Rocket. And those guys were just so cool they knew what was up with me at the time, though. Yeah. And so I started having these pains in my back. It felt like I had pulled a muscle, like left shoulder, mid back, and you'd even like mess with the muscles. You'd be like, man, okay, the muscle's sore. So I thought I'd just like pulled a muscle. And we'd visited Nashville because we were going to move there from Austin. And just all of a sudden, I had this crazy pain. Like, the pain was really bad. And I started, like, not being able to breathe. And I pulled over. And I never went to the hospital for that. So I don't know if that was a heart attack or what. And then it just started, like, being a constant thing all the time. So I just kept drinking, kept smoking to keep the pain away. And then one night in Austin, I called Nita, and I was like, I think I'm going to have a heart attack. next day, I woke up having those severe chest pains. I stood up, and the room started spinning completely crazy, and I had to sit back down, and my girlfriend was at work, so it was just me in the apartment. We barely had signal on the cell phones, so I had to call 911 like 5 or 6 times just to be able to get through. And but you could feel yourself fading. I knew I was about to die, because like the oxygen, you're not getting oxygen in the brain. But finally they got there. She got there. I called her. What was really scary, I've had 2 heart attacks, but this was the scariest one. Because when they got there, they're all like talking to each other like, we got to get his heart rate up. It's really slow. All right, guys. They're being like super fucking serious. Like, but I'm sitting there very conscious.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you talking about? But I remember the heartbeat was feeling like, just barely going. And so they got me out of there in time, and I didn't have to have open heart surgery. I got some stents put in. So after that, started eating healthy, quit smoking, quit drinking. We moved to Nashville, and the relationship started falling apart there. So I started drinking, smoking, and we broke up and moved to Anniston, back home for a while, to decide what my next move was going to be. And that's when I had my second heart attack there. So basically, it's like genetics, I guess. I had really high cholesterol, and no medication will take it down.
Yeah.
So, but I haven't had, I had to go back for a third surgery to put stents in. I didn't have a third heart attack though. But now to recent days, I don't do any drugs at all. No alcohol, no cigarettes. I've been clean off of everything for about 5 years. Around
That's
5
awesome.
years.
Yeah, that's good.
But I feel pretty good, but over the last 6 months, I think I had a heart attack in bed a couple of months ago. Yeah. You know it when it is.
Yeah.
Like, if you're like, ooh, I'm having chest pain, it's probably gas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're just but I'll just tell you this. You know it. You know it. Like, when you have it, you're like, okay, this isn't something I've felt before,
Like a gunshot. When people say, they go, was that a gunshot? That probably wasn't a gunshot.
I've
When you
never
hear
been
it.
shot, but
Usually when you hear a gunshot, it's like,
That
was a gunshot. But if it's like firecracker, I'll say,
right, automatically you're like,
Yeah.
this is a heart attack.
Yeah.
This isn't like, ooh, I got some pain in my shoulder.
Yeah, maybe it's this.
It's like this, I'm having a heart attack. And so, but I carry nitroglycerin with me at all times. And
That's good.
so that's kind of where I'm at right now, is like, I've been fighting all of these demons for 10 years, and now that I'm really sober and kind of got my life together, I'm wanting to put out as much music and anything as I possibly can. I want to create podcasts. I want to do YouTube shows, because I know my time here is very limited.
Well, you have at least 3 ridiculous people to join you in whatever ventures.
Yeah. And people are great, man. People reach out to me every once in a while with crazy ideas of reforming 1213 or putting out an album. There's some really great people that I've met. I'm sorry I'm tackling these really serious things, but I've really been thinking about death lately. And not to bring this down, it's just like, when you're faced with that, like, you can't have 2 heart attacks and possibly a third without starting to think like seriously about how it's gonna be, how death is really gonna be. So I've just been studying on YouTube all these like people that have died and came back alive. I'm not a religious man, but I think it's very possible that some sort of consciousness continues. I'd like to think that the moment we die, we wake up in a mirror universe and wake up like nothing happened.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's kind of like I'm having a heart attack and then you automatically die.
Yeah.
You wake up with some chest pains.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, glad that didn't happen.
Yeah. That'd be
With
nice.
no knowledge of
Just never
dying.
know.
And I think it's possible that that continues to happen over and over. And we may have been recycled billions of times.
Yes.
That's very Eastern and almost train of thought. And, I also, me scoffing at religion earlier was merely just the organized, version of it.
Man, I've been anti-religion all my life. And the organized religion part is it's a scam.
Yeah.
It's a scam on poor people and uneducated people.
But
to take poor people's money and to get rich. And I know that may be insulting to some people, but I've been involved with non-denominational churches too. The ones that people go, well, you never been to this one, you know.
Yeah.
I've been in the ones where you speak in tongues and have prophecies, and I mean, I've had it where we even our preacher, we would call him an apostle.
I remember that. I remember you telling me about
that's
that.
probably where you were talking about the religion earlier. I started going to non-denominational church, and I really believe this was an apostle of Christ. I was dating his daughter at the time.
That's how I remember. Because I remember saying like, you think he's an apostle of Christ? He doesn't want you dating his daughter, but you're dating his daughter anyway.
That's what's up, dude.
He basically.
I remember I asked her on the phone if she liked discharge.
Oh, you talked to her?
And your mom
Wow.
laughed. That's what it was. I was like, "Do you like discharge?"
No, she was as unpunk as you can get, and she hated the Nic-O-teens and NC-17.
Yeah.
But she was the worst girlfriend I ever had.
Well, I could just imagine.
We never saw each other.
Yeah.
Because she also bought into the thing. I mean, it's her father.
Yeah. Well,
You're gonna buy into that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
At age like,
imagine her.
She was like 16, 17. I was like 17, 18 at the time. So she 100% believed it. I don't know about it today, but I still hold him in some regard in my mind, which is really weird.
Yes, it's weird.
Because I became an atheist, like, I guess, shortly after we stopped hanging out, I guess.
Yeah, I would think.
I started dating this girl, around 12, 13. I became an atheist, and look back on it, on everything, I was just like, whatever. But there's some strange things, like there would be like a prophecy thing at the end of each. I mean, we'd be in church for 4 hours. Yeah, like this was a long Sunday church thing.
Yeah, when
every week.
10 a.m. Here's a croissant and be out of here by
10 a.m. we'd come
11.
in. And we would dance and play music. Like me and my brother Ryan were in the church band. Like I'd play bass, they'd play like the music over the PA, and we'd play along to it.
That's how I learned how to play in bands too.
Oh wow! And
that's why
I loved it. I loved the non-denominational church though, because they were open to homosexuality in a way. It was. The doors were open for everyone. Yeah.
That is
if you were Baptist, okay. Catholic, okay.
Well, I mean, really, that's good marketing.
Yeah.
If you're gonna sell to somebody, you want to sell to the widest demographic possible.
But it was an unpopular church.
Yeah.
No.
It was in an old parts house.
Yep.
Old parts house, and maybe filled 100 people at most.
Yeah.
And no snake handling and shit like that. But I mean, like,
that's where Jesse hangs out.
oh, okay.
Oh, Sand Mountain. On that Sand Old Mountain.
My mother-in-law was on the City Confidential about the snake handlers.
Really?
Yeah, because she was at the time local radio celebrity in Scottsboro.
Huh.
That's why Miranda, my wife,
Yes.
you know her.
Yes.
She can never listen to these podcasts because her parents are DJs or used to be DJs. So she would lose her damn mind hearing me talk and not be anything resembling a DJ. She'd be like, "What the fuck is this garbage?"
My mom just, when she listens like to it, she's just like, "You've got to get better. You got to be like more like Stephen Colbert with your interviewing. You need to be able to direct." I'm like, well, okay, well, he's been doing stuff for a little bit, you know.
Don't let Adam trick you into saying fuck.
Yeah,
It has a lot to do with your guest. Your guest needs to bring it too, though.
Yeah, that's true. I blame the guests.
I blame the guest totally.
I'm just like, I mean, you know, there's so much like to talk about with you, like, because there's like, I mean, just the crate that you brought in. I mean, we could have you on so many times to just talk about certain little aspects.
I've been wanting somebody to bring me on a show so I could like talk about what's going on in my life so long, like, and people would offer and stuff. It just never came through. But this is cool because we've been talking for a few hours, and I feel like I got some new friends.
Yeah.
All of a sudden,
Definitely,
it's like we've
man.
been friends forever now.
Yeah, I mean, they're not good, but they're.
Yeah.
They're all right.
We're here. We show up.
I hope that something I've brought today has been compelling enough, you know, to make people want to listen and give you guys a shot.
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely, and we want to have you on more too. I
Yeah,
think.
if you ever want to come back on, we've got room for you. You know where he lives.
Maybe I could be like a special guest every once in a
Yeah.
while. Come in
Sounds
and
good.
tell us some crazy stories. Cause,
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what I'm looking to do now. Like, I'm probably never going to be able to tour again.
Yeah, if you're
I
having
don't-
health issues.
I mean, I would have to have a roadie that does everything.
Yeah.
I can't lift anything heavy. I can't really walk up any stairs without getting chest pains, you know. So that sucks because
That-
I love touring so much. But I can still record.
Yeah, and recording's easier than ever.
It's
You
as
know,
easy
like,
as ever.
the
God, it is.
Low,
yeah.
low barrier of entry. I remember you talking about recording the first Nic-O-teens demo, and then you guys were so happy that you figured out how to just record from the PA, like connect the PA to stuff. It was just like, this is so much better because it used to be hard to record. You used to have to
God, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
if it was easy back then, everybody would have had demos, but
Yeah.
you know, it was like only a few bands had recordings in
Yeah.
Alabama.
No, until we were using Neil's setup, you know, we didn't have a proper. All our recordings were done on boombox. You know?
All our recordings,
Or a karaoke machine. We had a karaoke machine. We recorded a demo on that.
even in like 2004 to 2011, like a lot of our recordings we had a video camera and we'd split the audio. That's like all we knew how to do, like, because we didn't have any of the equipment.
But sometimes that's, you know, you do capture an energy if you can hurry up and do that, you know. This is a total tangent, and we don't have time for that, but I'm going to do it anyway. I love a lot of releases on Discord records, but something I actually kind of disagree with, I feel like a lot of their releases are more like capturing the band rather than like putting the band in the studio. Like, it sounds like it's not a live recording, but we're going to capture this band as honestly as we can. And this is a documentation. This is documentation of the band performing. And I feel like for some bands, like even Fugazi, which everybody loves, I feel like I almost kind of wish Fugazi had like a bigger production. You know,
I get that.
Rather than like this kind of snapshot aesthetic, because it's still high quality. Even their old stuff is high quality recordings, so it's like high quality. I feel like it's not capturing the live energy. So I mean, you can see the live energy if you just watch like an old YouTube video of that back to YouTube. You know, there's plenty of live energy, but it's like they lose some of that, and the studio makes up for the lack of live energy. I feel like they don't take advantage of that enough.
Was like Out of Step and like a lot of the minor threat records. Was that on Discord, or did
Yeah.
that come later?
Oh yeah, no, that's like the first. Well, not the first Discord stuff. The first Discord stuff, their first band.
Teen Idols.
IDL.
Yeah, different idols.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've been talking about other teen idols.
Yeah,
the whole time.
sorry. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
two different.
That's why I tried to say like the first
It's
band.
band,
They're
yeah.
like who? Teen idols.
Do we want to talk about paranormal or punk rock and wrestling?
We barely talked about music.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've had some crazy paranormal things happen to me.
No,
I don't know if I've told you or...
I don't know. We've talked about paranormal stuff because I know I told you a long time ago about the ghost dog I saw.
Really? See, I've always been
What?
obsessed with that stuff, and I've gotten more recently obsessed
Oh,
with it.
man.
'cause
By
of
the way,
the
I don't
podcast.
believe in it, but I saw it.
I don't believe...
You know.
I'm a skeptic, too. I'm a huge skeptic.
We love skeptics, so
Shout out to Skeptic Punk Rock.
Fuck yeah. I mean, I'm like half like Mulder, half Scully. Like, I want to believe in everything, and I will suspend
Skulker.
my fucking, Scully. I will suspend my disbelief when people tell me stories, and I'll also be open-minded if I think an experience is happening.
What kind of paranormal stuff are we talking about?
Never seen any big eye aliens or anything like that.
No, all mine have been tiny.
No almonds, no eyes, and grays
Yeah.
or greens.
I think that's probably what they look like if they do exist. But the thing is, I don't really think that, like what's it called, the Fermi paradox? If aliens exist, why haven't we seen them yet? You know?
right.
And like, even if there is a race so advanced that they're able to travel at fast speeds,
Mhm.
it would still take them millions of years to get here.
Mm-hmm.
So their species would be dead out by the. So they've either figured out wormholes or time travel or something. Yeah.
And everybody talks about the portals and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Wormholes.
So I kind of lean towards it's not aliens at all. And not demons. Like, a lot of people are going towards that now, too.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
oh,
yeah.
it's the
The YouTube
demons.
channels always go towards
Yes.
that.
But I don't think it's that either. I'm starting to wonder if it is dead souls.
Like a time repeating, almost like an echo.
Yeah, almost that too.
No.
You guys ever had a sleep paralysis event?
I've never experienced sleep paralysis, but
My-
I've heard it's
My
terrifying.
wife has it all the time. And
Really?
It's pretty terrible for her.
Has she? Well, we don't want to talk about her. She's not here. Um,
But I've heard of people seeing beings, you know, and sometimes it's people they know.
She said pretty bad. When they gave her, ooh,
you ever been in a room with her when it happened?
yeah, and I've shooken her out of it without knowing that she was in it. You know, hey honey, and then I somehow managed to finally get her out of it.
It's happened to me quite a lot, but when I was a kid, I'm more skeptical about the stuff that happened when I was a kid because, you know,
Well, we remember what we were. We don't. Really
I can't
remember stuff.
even remember how we first met.
Yeah,
so
we don't really remember stuff. We remember that we remember it.
you remember the memory.
Yeah,
Nate.
I remember that. I remember that we.
That's why memories are, you know, I mean,
That's why witnesses
eyewitnesses,
suck
yeah.
eyewitnesses suck in court because they
Yeah.
just, you know, I've told the story before. I don't know if I've ever told you this, but told them this multiple times. But when Miranda was expecting our first daughter, we were out on the main drag in Jacksonville, like in front of Winn-Dixie out there, going towards the bank.
Yes.
And Miranda stopped the car. She got out of the car and we were arguing, but it was about something minor. Like I'm talking about, like not even talking as loud as we are right now.
Yeah.
Talking to each other. But
Just a disagreement.
but she like stopped. She was basically we're stuck in a car. She's parking to get away from me. We're in a college town. Everybody's walking. It's not a big deal. She's getting out, walking on the sidewalk, and I said, "Where are you going?" She's like, "Well, I'm gonna go home." And I'm like, "Well, I don't want you walking home." It's like, how about we drive home, and then I'll get away from you, or you can get away from me, or whatever. I just want to make sure you're safe, because air conditioning stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to her, and I told her I apologize, because I can't remember what it was, but you know this. I say crazy shit all the time.
I gotta interrupt.
Yeah.
Why can't everybody do that? Look, we're having a major argument here. Well, I'm getting out of the fucking car. No, like, seriously, we're disagreeing and we're fighting right now. Can I just bring you home?
Yeah.
Because so much shit can happen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm getting out of the car, and next thing you know, somebody picks her up. And, You know what I mean?
Oh,
So
yeah.
it happened.
That's
So-
good of you. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Well, that's it. Well, I mean, I love her. So,
Mm-hmm.
so I apologized to her, and I said, I'm sorry about that. So, again, this is like I don't know how far along she was. But she was pregnant, and, there we are. We barely been together any amount of time, and she's going through stress. It's hot outside. We're in our crappy car and all this other stuff. So, but she sits down on this. I walk behind her, and we're talking. She's not mad at me. We're walking together. Sit down on the sidewalk. Or sit down, like, kind of in the grass, feet on the sidewalk kind of area. And all of a sudden, a police officer comes up. Police officer parks nearby, and I see a cop parking nearby, walking over. And I'm like, oh, I know the routine. I dress funny. Cop's coming over to give me shit. So I'm like, all right, I'm getting up, And then plus I'm like, okay, I guess we're loitering. I was always aware of the rules and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's good to know the rules so you know what you're doing when you're breaking them.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You want to make sure you know your handbook from front to back so you know the rules better than the teachers. So the cop comes up and he's like, step away from her right now. And I'm like, yes, sir. And step away. And he's like, ma'am, are you okay?
Damn.
So in the end, without me having to recreate that whole conversation, what had happened was in the time that Miranda, who was driving, parked the car, got out, walked, and I walked behind her, never even touching her. Witnesses across the street had turned into I had dragged her kicking and screaming out of the car by her hair.
Wow.
There was about 8 witnesses who swore they saw that and told the police they saw that. Wow. And you met Miranda. Good luck grabbing her by the hair and doing anything with her that she didn't want. Miranda could have beat both our asses.
Dude, you are not a violent person.
No. I make jokes about it, but yeah, no. But I mean, honestly, I'm dead serious. If I had ever tried to lay a finger on Miranda, she could have killed me. She's a fighter. She's a scrapper.
That's weird.
Or she's not now. I mean, she's like mom stuff. But I'm saying, like, back in the days, That's what the witnesses saw that. Cop said, like, maybe you guys don't need to be together. All this other stuff. And it screwed up some of our housing stuff we had going on because the lady who was in charge of the housing authority stuff out there came up to the witnesses and they said that, and she talked to an officer, and the officer said that he had told us to leave town, so she had like scrapped all of our paperwork.
Jesus.
So we had to start over from scratch, get a new home. I was all this crazy stuff.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it was nuts because I was just like, I mean, it's not even like you could conceive of it being that, but I'm sure one person said they thought they saw it, and then people just turned into that. I mean, I don't think they were lying. I think they just thought they really thought they saw
really
it.
thought that. You don't think it was like because of the way you looked or anything?
No.
You think it was just?
I'm sure somebody might have said something, and then somebody misheard it, and then they all thought they saw it.
Yeah, like,
Wow.
oh, I think he was pulling him. Oh, I think he pulled it. Oh, yeah, that's what he said. Yeah, he was pulling him.
Yeah.
Pulling her by the hair. Yeah, that's what happened. I saw them. They were over there.
It's crazy.
You guys ever heard of Elisa Lam?
No.
I don't think so.
Really?
Yeah.
That's the most perplexing paranormal event. Well, some people say it's not paranormal. I'm into true crime, really, a lot
Yeah.
now, too, which is weird.
Yeah. I've been watching lots of Unsolved Mysteries lately.
So, those little, like, top 20 weirdest, scariest videos ever released. You ever see that shit on YouTube?
Yeah.
So I saw this several years back.
I think I know what you're talking about. Go on.
So this girl from Japan, I believe she was from Japan. No, she was Japanese, but she was from Canada.
I was going to say, I knew she was Asian.
and she was staying in a hotel near Skid Row. Anyways, she was at the Hotel Cecil.
Yeah, I don't know much about Skid Row.
Hotel Cecil, just a couple blocks from Skid Row.
Mm-hmm.
And really smart, honor student, college girl, normal. I don't know what she was doing staying there. But anyways, she ends up going missing. It gets crazy. And they review footage of the hotel. They start looking at all the tapes to see if they can find her. And they find out that they actually kicked her out of her hotel room. It was kind of like a hostel situation where she was staying in a room with several other people.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, she had annoyed them to the point that they wanted her out. So she didn't have a room anymore. But I guess this was the night after that. They've got footage of her late night in an elevator. And it's the creepiest thing you'll ever see in your life. Actually, American Horror Story kind of based one of the seasons on it.
The
You guys
hotel
watch
season?
that?
Yeah, I haven't seen that. If you're talking about the hotel season, I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah,
so
they based.
I
They
need to
kind
watch
of based it on that. Anyways, the footage of her in the elevator. She's acting really weird. She comes into the elevator, presses all the buttons. She hides in the corner. She's looking around. She peers out her head out of the elevator, looks around like she's being followed or something. The doors are staying open, they're not closing. A lot of people at first were like, why are the doors not closing? This is creepy paranormal shit. But I think she pressed one of the buttons and it's like it makes the door stay open for 2 minutes, I think. So between this 2 minutes, she's hiding in the corner. She walks out of the elevator, starts doing this weird thing with her arms out in front of her, like doing her hands really creepy, like she's talking to somebody. There's nobody in the shot. A lot of the footage is pixelated, like the timestamp down at the bottom is really pixelated, so you can't really tell if they kind of took some footage out and spliced it together. Sometimes her mouth is pixelated, just really creepy stuff. Okay, so that's all they got on her. And a few days later, people started calling down to the front desk saying that the water was brown and it had a funny taste, And so they go up, check the water tank, and they find Elisa in the water tank.
Oh, shit.
And she's been in there for I think about a week.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I know it was days.
Supposedly you can't get on the roof without the alarm going off. But this guy that I watch, he does really incredible true crime stuff on YouTube. Lord and Art's channel. You should really check it out. It's incredible. But he kind of started his channel over this mystery. But he lived nearby, I believe, so he was able to go there. And he was able to open the window and get on the roof without an alarm going off. So anyways, they found her. Her clothes were in the water tank, not on her. She was floating face up. No trauma, no drugs. The water tank lid was pretty heavy too. She would had to have put the water tank lid back on as she goes into this water, which is almost impossible to go behind you because there's no ladder in the tank. It's just splash. You're in water.
So nobody, would someone else had to have done it?
Well, that's what you would think. That maybe she's trying to run away from somebody in the elevator, you know. They rule it a suicide. And they find out that, while they do an autopsy, they didn't perform a rape kit. But there was some pooling of blood in the anal region. But really, she was on some antipsychotics, but nothing like super serious, you know? She didn't have like super serious previous mental illness. Just a normal girl.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot to get into a water tank like that.
But a lot of people say the way she was reacting in the elevator proved that she was having like psychotic break. But you just watch it and you're just like,
It is some unnerving stuff.
Unnerving
Because
is the word.
It's not right. You're looking at it and it's not right. So it's unnerving. It's not.
And there's a lot more things I've probably left out, like, like a disease that's in water kind of broke out on Skid Row that week. Not because of her being in the tank. It was some other, I forget what the disease is. But the test used to see if it's positive or negative if you have this disease is called the Lamb-Elisa test.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
It just,
a weird
it just
coincidence
happened? So it wasn't named after her? It was
No.
Whoa.
And there's just little pieces like that all over that's just like super fucking weird. Ever since I saw that, like I went straight into like paranormal again. Even though I was like, like ghosts to me,
Yeah.
bullshit. Pretty much.
No, that's what me and Miranda have been going back and watching reruns of Unsolved Mysteries, right? And first of all, by the way, if you watched it back in the day, it's not as good as it was then because what they did was they chopped them all up because they would re-air them with updates, and then they added updates all the multiple times they've been re-aired and stuff.
Oh, it's weird.
So like if you watch you'll watch one episode and then you go okay, and then they go update and you see the update. Then you watch like 2 episodes down and you'll see the original update where they gave you the update. So you're like, how many updates do I need for this? And you try to watch it in order. Now you don't notice as much when you're watching it weekly, but when you watch them in order, you go, oh, most of the episodes in the first season take place in the same town in Oregon. And you see the same cops and stuff, and you're just like, I'm never going to go to that town. And Miranda's been there, and she was telling me, she's like, it's not even that big of a town. Like, what the hell's going on over there? But you know what it was? They were on a budget, and they went there, and especially during the first season, they were on a budget, and they were doing it. But it's, me and Miranda were talking about this, and it's like, when we were kids, and we were watching the show, like, there'd be, like, the stuff about, like, murder stuff, whatever, and you'd be like, who cares?
Yeah.
I mean, well, actually,
But if there's some kind of creepy component,
if it was the ghost stuff, we're like, that's great. But the parents would not care about the ghost stuff and be like, why don't you care about the ghost stuff? That's the good stuff. But now we go back and watch it. I'm like, nah, the ghost stuff sucks. And I just see that guy. I'm like, that fucker's lying. That they're just trying to get people to go to their bar to see the ghost. And I don't blame them. I would do it. But some of the stories are such bullshit. You're like, that's bullshit. Like, that's not even like any kind of compelling ghost story.
What about Missing 411? This
So you have to elaborate.
this ex-cop, he starts hearing about these people going missing in national parks in America. And he starts finding that there's clusters in certain areas in America. And he goes, looks at them, and these unsolved cases are just really weird. Like, 1 minute the person will be walking with 20 other people, just talk to them. Next thing you know, they're gone. And, you know, they search the entire area, can't find them. A lot of times it'll be a kid.
Yeah.
The kid will come back and say, you know, they'll find him like 4 days later, 10 miles over a mountain.
Yeah.
Like he would have had to cross over this mountain to get where he was found. And they ask him what happened to him, and he's like, well, I was with a robot lady that kind of reminded me of my grandmother.
Whoa.
And we were underground with all these people that kind of looked like humans, but they were robots. and she freaked me out when she asked me to poop on a piece of paper.
What?
And I didn't want to poop on a paper, and she got mad, and then that's all I remember until you guys found me. You know, and it's just story after story of this weird fucking shit. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's pretty creepy too.
Yeah,
I like that.
That is really
I
good.
love finding that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
I'm watching the Lisa Lamb.
How
tape
scared
right
are you right now?
now. It's pretty tense. She's standing at the edge of the elevator right now. I've never heard about the people just disappearing.
Oh man, you're
yet.
gonna go down the rabbit hole.
Oh, I
dude.
will.
It is. I've spent hundreds of hours. I keep going back and forth on it. I'm like, okay, she has a psychotic break.
Yeah.
And then the next minute, I'm like, somebody in that hotel maybe like one of the bellboys or something was out there.
I think someone had to have killed her, man.
That's what I feel.
I keep going back. That's how I've always gone back to. Or at very least, like, contributed to her death.
Yeah.
Are there hiding maybe some people she was hanging out with at the elevator?
Yeah.
Maybe there were some more people that went up.
Yeah.
Maybe they went up partying that night on the top of the roof.
Do you think they didn't find any drugs in her system or anything?
No. Just like slight amounts of the drugs that she was prescribed. Not even what she was prescribed. And so they go, well, she didn't have the right amount, so maybe that's what caused the psychotic break or whatever. Her family brought a lawsuit, wrongful death against the hotel. Mm-hmm. They rebranded the hotel and called it Stay on Main. And
yeah, I'm watching her do the hand thing right now.
That's creepy. He's getting serious.
Yeah, look at that. He's like, oh, you've broken him.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, stuff like this, it's unsolved. I mean, there's no. I mean, those are the ones.
No,
that
that's
are
what I'm saying.
interesting.
That's not some ghost thing. That's like.
I thought it was kind of ghostly when I first saw it.
It is ghostly when you look at it, though. It's haunting. How about that? It's very haunting.
Yeah.
I mean,
but second thoughts, I think there might have been a few dudes involved with this.
Yeah. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Because
people don't just wind up in
a water tank.
tank.
Oh, here's another creepy fact. About 2-3 years before this happened, a movie came out with the exact same premise.
Really?
People in a hotel were complaining of brown, dirty water. They found out a girl had been murdered in the water tank above the hotel.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's just little things like that. And that Lamb Elisa test stuff. It's just fucking weird, man.
Yeah, it's really.
I love that. Fucking love that.
Why did the elevator door open back up?
But I've been.
See, look at that. See, you got him.
That's all you're going to be doing for the next year and a half.
What's bad is I knew what part he was talking about. Yep. Open back up.
And then the door closes right after she walks out. That's kind of creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stays open that whole fucking time, and then the moment she walks out,
Close.
Yeah, they're saying maybe it was the ghost of Richard Ramirez because that's where he stayed when he was the Night Stalker, and notorious for killers and crimes there. A lot of women had jumped off windows there before.
Really?
It's lots of crazy history there.
What was the name of the hotel again?
Hotel Cecil. Cecil Hotel.
Cecil,
With CECIL.
Yeah, any of those old hotels though, especially in a kind of darker, dingier, historic part of town. I mean, those things all have crazy haunting. You know, there's gonna be dozens of people who died there, and there's gonna be.
And then the smiley face killers.
Yeah.
Y'all know about that?
Yeah.
No.
I'm kind of not as much into it as I was to begin with. Because they...
Like in The Howling. The Howling had the smiley face killer. Or was the happy
Really?
face killer?
Is that where it came... That's where they came up with the name for it?
I don't know. That's what... They had he leaves happy faces at all the murder sites. And then, spoilers, it's a werewolf. And it's
What creeps me out is just it's the same as white dudes or black dudes college age. Good dudes leave the bar early. They end up drowning, and they'll be found like. I think when you drown. I think you are back up or front up, or I don't know which one it is, but a lot of the times they would find them the opposite way of what the natural way is that you usually are found.
It's usually back up, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I mean that's what I see in films.
Yeah.
I think so. I don't know.
God, that's weird. The three of y'all have some idea what people look like when they drown.
You've watched plenty of horror movies.
I'm not
man.
going somewhere with any of you fuckers.
I've been watching way too much real death on.
Yeah.
You can find that shit on YouTube.
Yeah, no, that stuff's on. Yeah, it's on there.
It's horrifying. I don't watch any of that like shit where people chainsawing off Americans' heads and stuff.
No.
But like the creepy stories that are like have a paranormal twist, I'll occasionally watch it.
Yeah.
And then accidentally listen to like a terrifying 911 call or something. Whew.
Yeah, I've heard
Yeah.
some of those. That's some.
The one that broke me up the worst was the other day, man. I'm writing a song about it. I'm writing a lot of the stuff, like musically, that I've been writing this past year.
It's been inspired.
Is
by stuff like that.
it's a lot more serious stuff.
Yeah.
And there's people wanting me to put out pop punk stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't know if I can do pop punk anymore, man. I love it. I still love listening to it.
Yeah. But if that's not what you're doing.
I'm definitely not into the punk part of it, really.
Yeah.
And that's what really, it kind of breaks my heart. But I think I kind of want to make more complex music. I'm not like saying like a virtuoso lead
more
guitar.
depth to it, though.
Yeah, like complex drums and it's kind of like what you heard with the Widowmaker EP thing. Thank you for the wonderful write-up about that.
Oh, you're welcome.
I didn't think it was really anything at all.
Yeah, I was happy to see more out of you anyway, and then I was like, wow, this is something really different. And
nobody responded to it except you.
we all well, me and Rob from Ramshackle.
Yeah.
Back in the day. Well, Rob and Brandon were they did. We already talked about it in a previous episode. They did Broken Dixie Records. They put out Heartless Dixie, the Skeptic record. So they put that out, and they were going to put out a Tiger Hellside record. All that just sort of fell apart. Whatever. But anyway, once in a blue moon, me and Rob will get back in touch with each other, and we still might try to put out the Tiger Hellside thing on, put the Broken Dixie label on there and stuff. But every time I talk to Rob, usually it's on the phone. He was almost in Tiger Hellside. But everybody's almost in Tiger Hellside. So that don't mean anything. Andy scared him off. But Rob, but every time we talk, somehow we end up going back to, he loves Bad Religion. So it ends up Bad Religion. But the other thing, but there's two other things. The other thing is, somehow we always end up going back to the Misfits in 1995, coming to Birmingham. Apparently we're both at that show, and I'm telling you, it was such an amazing show. Even if you don't like the Misfits, you don't like that Misfits, they just had their shit together.
Where was it at?
5 Points out in.
God, that sounds amazing.
I mean, it was like I said, they just, I mean, they didn't stop moving the whole time. Like it affected my band at the time, because like Ansel sitting back and just, because me and Kevin went out, and Ansel's just sitting there like, what the hell are y'all doing? So before we'd stand there and look serious and tough, and then we were just like hopping around all over the place and shit, and they're just like, what the hell? So
I still watch those live shows from that era all the time.
They were amazing. So there's that, and then me and Rob, I'm telling, like 99% of the time we talk goes back to the Hughes brothers. It's like Randy and Ryan, they need to do this, they need to do that. They were really talking about doing Broken Dixie. It's like, we gotta get Randy to put out an album on our thing, or do a record on that and stuff.
See, man, I would love to just start putting out stuff. That's all I want to do now. Besides the non-music stuff like the podcast and video stuff, and I do want to be putting out music left and right. Yeah. And I've got tons of lyrics, tons of music stuff I've written this year, and I just kind of I get canned down and out sometimes. I was like, nah, nobody's gonna want to hear this. Yeah. You know. So, but yeah, man. I would love to put out a lot of stuff this year, even if there's just a few months left. I would love to put a lot out this year.
Definitely let us know where to find it, and then we'll be playing it.
Yeah, we'll play the shit out of it. Because I mean, that's honestly, I've never heard anything come from any endeavor you ever done that was bad. There's never been anything bad. There's been some stuff I like more than others. But it's always been consistently good, you know. Like I liked the Nic-O-teens better than I liked NC-17, but you know, if you knew me, it'd be. But
that's you. You never really liked that emotional. Obviously, yeah.
When you're the one who first told me about emo, and I thought I was like, I think that's what I'm into, and I heard it, I'm like, no, that's not at all. Because in my head, emo was going to be like, and of course, everybody who hears it is going to be like, that sounds like emo to me, because they're going to think of all the guys in mascara and stuff.
Oh, when people hear on this interview that I like that stuff, the people that only know me for Backseat Virgins are going to be like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Well, to me, there's not much of a divide between stuff like the Get Up Kids and.
But like to me, emo, I picture, I don't know, like somewhere between like, I don't know, like The Cure, but rougher, with some new model army thrown in there or something. That's what I think it's gonna be, and it's not that enough.
No.
Now all the bands that came after the Get Up Kids Alkaline Trio, I can't stand it. Yeah. Starting with like Yellow Card and all that kind of stuff. I never got Yellow Card. I never got why people thought anything of Yellow Card.
They like Ocean Avenue is catchy.
Yeah.
They almost played my birthday show at 12:13. Mm-hmm. They had a date pop up and just got in touch with me. I didn't know they were popular. Yeah. And somebody was like, well, with Yellow Card. Yeah. And they're like, do it. And I was like, okay. And I called them back. I was like, yeah, sure. And then they canceled. They had a radio show in Jacksonville, Florida, pop up.
They went for that.
And I was like, okay. I think it was a big radio station or something, but yeah, I never. That's actually why one of our songs. One of the reasons I changed one of our songs. One of our songs used to be called Ocean Avenue. It was 112 Ocean Avenue, then it became Ocean Avenue. And we had demos, Tiger Hellside did when we were starting out, and it was a leftover song from my version of the Brain Drainers I was doing, because it was about the Amityville Horror. It's about the Amityville Horror book, not the movies. Mm-hmm. And so we did the Brain Drainers, but Tiger Hellside later on did the song, and Tiger Hellside is not as subtle as the Brain Drainers. That's not very subtle either, but as subtle as them. But so we changed the name to everybody kept saying, that's a Yellow Card song. And I kind of liked the idea of people thinking it was going to be a Yellow Card song.
Yeah, that's really fun.
But we started adding more lyrics to it, because originally the only lines were, Jody running through the snow, darkness falling where he goes. Jody running through the snow, never see you again, you son of a bitch. about the pig chasing him in the snow. And what happened was, I was sitting around rewriting it with the Taylor Wills, the original drummer of Tiger Hellside, and it was just me and him, and I was playing on I had like a portable practice electric. It had a built-in speaker with a 9-volt battery in there, so you just turn the knob and be like, dee-dee-dee-dee-dee. But you could plug it in like a real guitar. You plug it into your amp, be like, no. I mean, it still sounded like shit, but I was just like, I always thought that I could just take off my clothes and put spikes all over me and then just play with that little thing, and people be like, that's like the real guar. Tiny little guitar. Anyway, but I added lines like Ronald DeFeo, the bad son, family counseling isn't fun. Ronald DeFeo told the cops once I started I couldn't stop, and he loves his gun. So I definitely took it more dark, violent.
Yeah.
Not the other one could almost be like a weird art song. You're like, I don't know what this Jody thing is, but it's a reference to something. Turn into that, I mentioned the red room in it, and I say like, talking about smelling like shit and stuff. Well, it got dark. It got worse. And then, so because I took it to that extreme, I changed the name of the song to Amityville Horror.
I remember that.
Yeah,
Okay.
So but that's every time you hear it, like, I'm going to watch a horror movie. People go, horror movie? And it's like, no, I'm going to watch a horror movie, stupid. A horror movie.
Yeah, every time.
Terror movie. So, but I made it Amityville Horror. And was it Maximum Rock and Roll? They said, like, because we released it as a single, like a different version. It was like as a Halloween single for us. And they were like, that's not clever, right?
Yeah, I remember that review.
And it's like, it's absolutely not clever. But in my head, if you listen to the song, it isn't like a dirty song.
No.
I mean, it's a filthy song, but not like in sex sort of way. It's just nasty.
Yeah.
I love finding bad reviews more than good reviews.
I know.
Me too.
Those are the fun.
That's
Yeah.
so
And
fun.
so that they didn't get, but to me, Amityville Horror, I feel like horror is something that's supposed to be extreme, and I felt like we had made that song, took that song a little far for what it was. So yeah, but you were asking about the Brain Drainers.
Yeah. Who are the Brain Drainers?
The Brain
talked
Drainers
about them, but
was
we don't know
originally
who
going to
that
be Randy and I, and we were working on we recorded some demos. I don't know whatever happened to those. I had a copy and you had a copy, and they're probably long gone.
Maybe I have them, man, because I've kept everything.
Look for them. If you ever look for them, I wouldn't mind re-recording them because we had.
Yeah.
I remember some of the lines, but
I think it was just guitar and vocals
yeah, it was
that we
guitar and vocals.
recorded.
But you had we had Decapitated Casanova. Oh, we better say what the band is first.
Yeah.
So originally, you came to me and you were talking about starting a novelty band. Okay.
I was really into the McCrackens at
Yes,
the time.
massive into the McCrackens. So this is his hideously awful idea that I regret us not doing. Was his idea was everybody would always say, and they still do. They'll come up and say, "You look kind of like Billy Corgan." So the idea was Corgan's organs, and I was going to dress up like Billy Corgan, and everybody else is going to dress like organs from the body, like different bodily organs.
That would be really
Wait,
fun.
that was my idea?
That was your
Oh
idea.
my god, that's brilliant.
So like, something like Corgan's organs. And
That
I was
sounds
just like,
amazing.
Why not? Let's do this. So, but I don't know how we ended up talking further about stuff, and I'm sure we were always talking about movies and stuff. So
Yes.
and I had gotten more into the Misfits. I actually was not big into the Misfits in like high school and stuff. So
I wasn't either.
They weren't really very important to me then. I got into them later on because I actually appreciated Danzig's early writing for him because it's kind of like just weird fucked up poetry
Yeah.
put to Ramones. That's like that Static Age is pretty much that. It's like it's taking a Chainsaw from the first Ramones album. That's pretty much what the Misfits is. It's just Chainsaw from the first Ramones album, and then adding I mean, it has woes in it and stuff, and it's about a horror film, but but the difference is it has like a guy with Elvis Jim Morrison vocals, and he adds like weird arty lyrics that are also gross. And anyway, but we were into zombie stuff. This was before everything was zombies everywhere all the time.
Yeah.
So the idea was that we would come out to the stage dressed like zombies.
Yes.
But the idea was that we would be like the most, we're talking like some Day of the Dead zombies, like the third Romero movie where it's just nasty, disgusting, scary zombies. Like you're afraid we're gonna fucking bite you. We look nuts. But then as soon as we got on stage, it'd just be like, what?
Awesome.
Best like craziest pop punk all about being zombies.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
And that's what it was. So
it's two of my favorite things put
yeah,
together.
so if we can ever find that tape, it's great. We did 3 songs. It was the Decapitated Casanova, and it had lines like that one was more of a kind of like an old like rock and roll song.
Yeah, yeah.
had some Chuck Berry
50s,
stuff,
60s kind of stuff.
But it's like, I'm a decapitated Casanova. Head falls off, and he puts it back on. He puts it back on. And, I mean, it had lines like, I lost my head for Uncle Sam when I was stationed in Vietnam.
Could have been like the masked intruder of its time.
So I remember some of the lyrics. So it was stuff like that. We had thousands of dead. Thousands of dead are walking around. It was like thousands of dead are walking around. Try to hide, but you're already found. Made your body look like kibbles and bits.
You know, it was
Yeah.
pretty cool.
It was. See?
I don't think we just didn't have anybody that could play with us
No,
at
we
the
have to do
time.
it. This barbecue is as good as it gets. And it had lines like, "We've done everything you thought you could. You've taken over your neighborhood. We fed your fish, ate your mom and dad. We're not misunderstood." And then he'd come in, "We're just bad."
Oh, it's so good.
So it would have been a fantastic band.
I love novelty bands.
Yeah.
Well, like Mask Intruder, have you listened to them very much?
Now, is that the guys from Teenage Bottle Rocket?
I don't know,
I don't
because
think
nobody.
so.
I don't know.
I'm
They-
pretty
East Coast.
sure
They
that
probably are. You probably know more about it than we do, but they pretend to be like
They always wear
robbers.
masks.
and
yeah,
like,
their
Ninja
songs
Turtles.
are all about like raping women and shit.
They don't really talk about rape. It's more like
It's like breaking your house. And
yeah,
like,
but they
I
always.
know
burst
they're
it.
a Ramones core band, but it's
Yeah.
like in the horror kind of thing, and a lot of people have kind of copied that recently. I've heard,
Yeah.
but
Instead of actually attacking the girl, though, they always just pull their knives out and break out into song.
yeah.
And so it's like an ongoing gag that they're like, she's like, "Why are you in my house singing? Like with those knives, get out of my house."
I'm gonna have to check it out. 'Cause I
pretty
I
good.
stopped listening to Ramones core over the last several years, and recently I found some pretty good stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of bands I've noticed that got super popular over the last 5 years. Because when I stopped listening, Teenage Bottle Rocket was kind of it. Besides the older bands that were still playing, like the Queers and Groovy Goalies, the only band that kind of had made it was them, because they went to Fat Records. I was really close with those guys. We used to talk on the phone every night too. And then Ray's brother died. The drummer, his twin brother, drug overdose a couple years ago. Never got to say goodbye to the guy.
Damn.
I was booking the Syndicate Lounge the first, I guess it was almost the first year before it like became a bar where he was actually able to have alcohol.
Yeah, we played it the first version of it. That you booked us there with
Yes.
the Go-Go Killers. But we had
With who?
the Go-Go Killers.
Oh yeah.
Because you found them on you said you found them on my list. That
Yes.
directory thing, but but the problem is we didn't know this. We ended up playing against we've already talked about this on a previous podcast. We ended up playing against Skeptic and the Coffin Cats at another venue.
And Jesse went
in
to
town.
that show.
Yeah, Jesse went to that show instead of going to see Tiger Helicide. And I remember the Go-Go Killers, Alabama Sharp said, "We're the Coffin Cats," introduced themselves like that. But I'm not going to talk about it at length, but basically what we did was we gave out free Skeptic records at our show while they were selling the records at their show.
Wow.
So that's it. Because what it was, we had that Broken Dixie connection there, and we didn't realize they were going to be at the same day. And like Rob gave me a stack of records and like, give these out because I want, because Rob didn't care about money. He cared about making a cool product, giving his favorite band favorite bands like vinyl releases because he loved collecting vinyl and just get their music out there. That's what he cared about. So that's what he did. But I've already apologized. I've talked to the Skeptic guys again since then. Like, sorry I did that. But
It's easy to get in a feud with people in bands because people are so passionate about their music.
Yeah.
And especially people in like their 20s or younger. You can make the slightest mistake by them. And even if you've supported them like through thick and thin, boy, sometimes they will not forgive you.
Yeah, they'd be like, I can't believe you turned on us like that.
I've got some crazy enemies over some ridiculous things.
Yeah, and it's just weird to me now that I'm like old, like don't almost hit 30. I'm
Can't believe
like,
you just called yourself old. It's a couple of fucking 40-years in here. Like, well, I'm almost old.
well, like I mean, I can't like
40-year-olds fucking old,
Yeah.
man. We're old.
I just can't see getting mad at another band for like, even if they like said that my band was terrible, I would just be like, okay,
Yeah,
it's
that's
fine.
just how other people don't think that way.
I had a falling out with Teenage Bottle Rocket at that show because back then I have like arthritis too, and so after I stopped drinking and stuff because of heart attacks and stuff, I was delivering pizza, and stupid ass boss gave me some painkillers, and then that was it. I was like, heaven.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't hurt, and this is the best high I've ever had in my life. And then that led to me going hardcore on opiates for about 2 or 3 years, and lost a lot of friends during that time because I became really flaky about showing up and stuff.
Yeah.
But just because I didn't go to their show that night, Ray called me and like cursed me out. I was like, dude, we're like brothers, and you're not fucking here at the show, man. Like, you know.
Yeah, I was hoping to see you at our show.
Yeah, I didn't make it
Can't
to
believe you
many.
didn't do it.
That was at the height of
Yeah.
my shit
But,
that was
but
going
at the
down.
same time, I was just like, oh, he didn't show up.
Yeah.
What a bummer.
I lost Dan Sartain over it.
Yeah.
I booked him in Anniston when I was doing that Caldwell Tavern thing, and I didn't make it out that night, and he got really pissed, even though the millions of times I booked him
Yeah.
and had great success. But yeah, lost a lot of good friends, man, over that time period, and I'm not making any excuses. I just think that people kind of take themselves too seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, it sucks. I wasn't there
But-
to hang out with them,
Yeah.
and we get to see each other twice a year,
Yeah.
so I understand. But yeah, that sucked.
But it's not a
Deal breaker. I mean, life
Yeah, it should be.
happens, you know.
But
shit
with the
happens.
independence, that shit's crazy with the independence.
Yeah.
That's before I was just drinking back then. That's right when I first moved to Birmingham. They'd played 12-13 a lot. They'd even done like a pool party out in the middle of nowhere. I can't even remember what it was. Like somewhere in Anniston. The girl from the Teen Idols was like dating Evil at the time. She was there. It was just fucking cool shit. But nobody would ever come see them.
Yeah.
Even on, like, first time they came to Anniston was on the Tuesday, and they killed it, and they were amazing live.
Yeah, I never got why more people didn't seem to care as much about it. Because, like, the people who did care around here did care a lot.
Because you could say, like, hey, Joey Ramone
Yeah.
produced their album.
Yeah, Joey Ramone was there.
All right,
Alright,
guys.
cool.
It's Rapid Randy.
Yeah.
You're listening to Gadzine Gadcast.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts, Andy?
Nope.
Any final thoughts, Adam?
I'm happy to have Randy here. It's good to see you again, old friend.
It's been great to see you. Been great to meet you guys.
It's been awesome to meet you, man.
And it's been great to get some things off my chest. And I would love to come back and do this again and talk about music next time.
I would love to have you back. Like, I think speaking for all of us, it'd be fantastic.
Absolutely. I look forward to listening to it and hope everybody out there enjoys the episode. We'll
Definitely.
see you next time.
This needs medication.
Oh my God! I get tired every single night. Well, if you've never ever seen a fight, something never had, you can say right. Let's do such a nervous guy. This is paradise. Whoa! This is paradise. Whoa! This is paradise. Whoa! This is paradise. Whoa! Every single night, well, if you've never ever seen a fight, something that they had, you just seem right. This is such a nervous guy. This is paradise. Whoa, this is paradise. Whoa, my choice for not like that. Whoa, this is paradise. Whoa, No! Why you die? every single night. Well, like you've never, ever seen a fight. Something never that you just seem right. This is not your nervous guy. This is paradise. Whoa. This is paradise. Whoa. This is paradise. Whoa. This is paradise. Whoa.
Should've known not to mess with a girl that I met at the local mall. But the way that she looked and the way that she talked had me hooked right from the start. It was so creepy till I took her to a movie and she kissed me during the love scene. It was nothing new till the mood got us nude and we did it in a bathroom too. Lucille, I'm sorry I never tell you how I feel. Where have you gone? I was all around. Lucille, for real, why don't you give me a phone call? I could be the best friend that you ever had. She was always smiling, all the gossip, always trying to be with
There's no way you do drugs like you used to do, drugs like you used to do, drugs like you used to do. There's no way you do drugs like you used to do, drugs like you used to do, drugs like you used to do. Cocaine and wake up and down after gig, sunrise, no sleep, go to work, zombie eyes. Would have been surprised if one of us died at the time. Still alright, we were social butterflies. Social butterflies, anti-social butterflies. Young old guys talking about good times when we used to feel alive. 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 When we used to be alive. When we used to be alive. When we used to be alive.